MyGhost-Writer presents The Shadow of the Eternal Khan, Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The Dual Edges of Loyalty. The sun dipped below the jagged skyline of the city, casting long shadows over the metropolis that still bore the hallmarks of Genghis Khan's legendary empire. Yurt-inspired domes mingled with the steel and glass of modern skyscrapers, creating a unique tapestry interwoven with centuries of cultural evolution. The streets buzzed with 1,000 conversations, yet none matched the tumult within Orkhon's mind as he strode purposefully through the teeming throng. By day, Orkhon was a vigilant officer of the eternal flame, his senses attuned to the subtle shifts in the air that indicated instability. His uniform cloaked him with an authority recognized and feared by those around him, embodying the enigmatic power of the empire he had sworn to serve. This power was evident in every disciplined step, every exacting gesture. Yet, in the privacy of his thoughts, Orkhon danced on the knife's edge, torn between the security of obedience and the whispers of revolt that grew louder with each passing day. The knight's covert obligations loomed ahead like a dark promise as he navigated this dual life, where secrets weighed as heavily as the responsibilities shouldered beneath the empire's emblem. As Orkhon moved, his gaze swept over the faces of the citizens. The merchants hawking wares imported from lands once thought distant, the street performers revitalizing old legends through contemporary expression, and the throngs of young students molded by the empire's doctrines. His destination was inconspicuous enough, a small tea house nestled in a quieter part of the city, where the hustle of daily life softened into dim-lit intimacy and murmured exchanges. It was a haven for those seeking respite from the empire's unyielding vigilance. Yet for Orkhon, it served a different purpose, a nexus where the disparate strands of rebellion slowly wove themselves into a formidable web. Entering the cozy establishment, he caught sight of familiar faces, both undercover agents of the regime and those quietly resisting within its shadowy recesses. Orkhon inclined his head slightly as he passed each table, weaving his way to a secluded alcove where a small group awaited his arrival with a palpable mix of anxiety and expectation. Seated there was Altai, glancing up as he approached. Her eyes, sharp and attentive, considered him thoughtfully, reflecting solidarity forged in secrecy. As the warm light from the flickering candles danced across her features, Orkhon was reminded of the shared moments that grounded him amidst the growing chaos. "Orkhon," she greeted with a voice just above a whisper, her words a balm to his otherwise turbulent thoughts. "Altai," he returned, taking the seat opposite her. Around them, muted conversations draped an invisible curtain of privacy. They exchanged updates on their dual lives with brisk efficiency, whispers exchanged, observations shared. Altai's role within the resistance was as crucial as his own, her acumen and insight into the empire's intricate machinery proving invaluable to those who dared oppose the prevailing order. Orkhon leaned forward, his voice barely a breath against the background hum. "Have you heard the latest from Soval Durin?" The mere mention of the name tightened the tension. Soval, a master of subtle manipulation and unsettling intuition, hovered like a specter, complicating their operations with each careful maneuver. Altai nodded, her expression unfaltering. "His presence grows stronger. The Empire's eyes are everywhere." The words hung between them, a reminder of the stakes at play. Yet, amid the danger, a silent acknowledgement passed between them, a promise that defied both time and empire. Here, in the heart of an empire that blurred allies from enemies, Orkhon and Altai found rare moments of alliance in each other, each choice a thread leading back to this ever-complicated fabric of loyalty and resistance. As Orkhon listened to Altai's observations about the empire's tightening grip and its cracks, he felt the weight of his dual existence strengthened rather than diminished. Here, in this shared interchange of sidelong hopes, he found the embers of what tomorrow might ignite, a world beyond the shadow of the eternal Khan. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Whispers of Revolution. The hours of twilight deepened, wrapping the city in a cloak of mystery that echoed the secrets Orkhon and Altai held close. The tea house, with its muted lamplight and hushed voices, became their sanctuary, a microcosm of defiance nestled within the empire's imposing reach. Altai reclined into her chair, her presence a paradox of relaxation and vigilance. Her mind, a labyrinth of knowledge and intuition, constantly churned with strategies and the latest intelligence gathered from the Empire's underbelly. Her eyes, dark and probing, settled on Orkhon with the measured intensity of someone who knew too much and yet dared for more. "You look wearier," she observed, her voice gentle but firm, akin to the autumn's first chill, a change unknown but felt deeply. Orkhon managed a rueful smile as he stretched his lean frame, the burdens of multiple lives etched into the lines beginning to frame his eyes. "As do you, Altai," he countered, his affection wrapped in the thin veil of jest. She dismissed his concern with a small, dismissive wave of her hand. "These days, we must carry many masks." Their conversation ebbed and flowed with the subtlety of seasoned conspirators. She recounted tales of unrest stirring in provinces far from the capital, stories of villagers breaking chains forged over centuries with silent but potent acts of defiance. As Altai spoke, her words painted vivid scenes of a world simmering beneath the surface, each instance of rebellion small, yet significant, a tapestry sewn together with threads of courage and hope. "To what end?" Orkhon mused, eyebrows knitting as he leaned forward, elbows resting on the tabletop. The flickering candlelight cast their shades upon the wall, a symbolic dance of light and shadow, as intricate as the real tension between loyal service and secret resistance. Even with these small fires of resistance, Sovel's network grows tighter, more pervasive. A ghost of a smile touched Altai's lips. "Because they fear what they cannot see, but know exists. We are not merely lighting fires, we are learning to control the flame." Her conviction resonated with Orkhon, keeping despair at bay. They spoke until the night grew old, weaving together intelligence and ideas with the skill of strategic artisans. Behind their serious discourse lay something far more profound, a silent understanding of what they had become to each other amidst these shadows. Where words failed, shared glances sufficed, speaking volumes that could not be uttered aloud. "So what now?" Orkhon asked, finally voicing the question that constantly lingered between them, tightly wound with anxiety, yet paradoxically enriched by shared purpose. Altai's gaze turned towards the window, her mind clearly plotting courses along invisible trails. "We keep moving," she replied finally, the conviction in her voice as steadfast as the mountains that bordered the Empire's vast expanse. "Sovel Durin may aim to tighten his hold, but each misstep he forces unearths new fissures." They both knew the risks, the inevitable tightening of the Empire's vice around those who dared to confront it. Yet, with each slip of information Altai uncovered, with each strategy Orkhon carefully executed, they were driven not by the inevitability of capture, but by the promise of a world reborn from its ashes. Their time was drawing to a close when Altai leaned across the table, her expression softening as her hand brushed against Orkhon's in a moment of rare, unreserved intimacy. "Remember why we started, Orkhon," she murmured, her voice a secret she entrusted only to him. "Remember what waits for us beyond this shadow." As they rose to leave, the tea house enveloped them once more in its quiet embrace, the outside world a juggling act of precarious alliances and fragmented dreams. Walking side by side through cobbled streets ripe with history, they vanished into the night like specters of yearning. Their path supported by echoes of a shared past, yet determined by the sparks of a formidable, forbidden love, a bond extending deep enough to withstand the shadows of an eternal empire. In the stillness, the city carried on, unfazed, unchanged, and yet, beneath its illuminated facade, whispered truths began to crack the old narratives, one heartbeat, one whispered promise at a time. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. The Eclipsing Shadow of Sovel Durin. The city awoke to a muted dawn, its residents unaware of the shifting allegiances and silent declarations that danced through the shadows just before sunrise. In the heart of the Empire's stronghold, sunlight trickled through towering windows of the Eternal Flame's headquarters, casting a glow on the polished marble floors and tapestries that told of conquests rendered in fine gold thread. It was a place where power was palpable and ambitions collided with precision. Within these imposing walls, Sovel Durin stood by a vast window overlooking the sprawling metropolis, a master sculptor contemplating his masterpiece. His reflection blended with the cityscape, a reminder that, like a sculptor, he could shape the contours of reality. His hands clasped behind his back, he resembled a statue himself, immovable and lethal. Soval had been honed by the Empire's rigorous creed, rising through the ranks with a decisive intellect and an uncanny ability to unravel deceit. Trusted and feared alike, he embodied the granite strength of the eternal flame. The command room, typically vibrant with strategists and analysts, hushed upon his entrance, an acknowledgement of the presence that demanded both respect and caution. As Soval scanned the room with his piercing gaze, his mind was already dissecting the undercurrents of discontent that threatened the Empire. The movements of resistance were scattered but resilient, their shadows skipping ahead of his every step. Yet Soval relished such challenges, regarding them as intellectual duels in which the cost of miscalculation was as steep as a vertically soared yurt dome. Among the tasks on his substantial docket was the growing suspicion surrounding Orkhon. Reliable, meticulous, yet there existed a disconnect, an intuition whispering of paths unseen. Today, Soval intended to start unraveling those threads. His tactical meeting began under the high, vaulted ceiling with a meticulous review of ongoing covert operations aimed at identifying resistance sympathizers. The advisors presented intelligence data, maps speckled with red indicators, which portrayed the city's districts where suspicious activity had been detected. Soval's eyes traced these charts like a reader over his favored parables, savoring each detail's implicit story. "We must bolster our presence in sections A and D," stated one of his strategists. "The unease there grows tangible, Soval." Soval nodded absently. His attention shifted instead to the innocuous areas, the gray zones where all seemed calm. It was among these that Soval sensed the telltale tremors of deception. "What of the officers in Section B?" he interjected smoothly. "Particularly Orkhon. Is his involvement yielding fruitful leads?" A hushed silence followed, as his team grappled with the implications. When silence persisted longer than comfort permitted, it was Soval himself who broke it. "Accelerate the scrutiny of his activities," he instructed, his voice imbued with the finality of stonework. "Where there are curiously still waters, often lies the deepest current." Once the meeting concluded, with tasks assigned and objectives clarified, Soval retreated to the sanctity of his private chamber, a space devoid of the ostentatious opulence that laced the common areas, replaced instead with books and strategically placed maps unmarred by prying eyes. Here, Soval allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. Those like Orkhon, burnished by the Empire yet positioned at precarious junctures of trust, required delicate handling. He needed to draw Orkhon out, uncover if he was asset or liability, ally or adversary. This meant granting him enough leash to slide gracefully into paths undiscovered, trusting all was as it should be, unless proven otherwise. The pieces of this living chessboard moved with purpose. Around Orkhon, networks coalesced, shifted, and sometimes thrived even within the Empire's starched rafters. Soval understood that to predict actions, one needed to anticipate thoughts, especially in those who navigated the corridors between light and shadow with equal ease. As the day slipped toward dusk, Soval considered the web being woven, a tapestry built of Empire blueprints and unseen defiance. Soval intended to pry further, employing subtlety and leverage, a hallmark of his subtle strategy. There, within his chamber, amongst the ambient whisper of ancient wisdoms, Soval crafted the next step in this dangerous dance with Orkhon. The game had begun, and Soval, ever the strategist, intended to play it with tactical precision. Orkhon, like so many others, was a piece on the board, but one never neglected a piece until its role was irrevocably clear. And so, as shadows stretched under waning daylight and the metropolis twinkled below like a constellation adherent only to its myths, Soval prepared himself for the challenge Orkhon represented, one that might unravel secrets or bind them further into the Empire's encroaching shadow. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. The Command at the Eternal Flame. The majestic heart of the Eternal Flame reverberated with echoes of vigorous activity as officers and advisors hustled through pristine halls. The sun had risen high, reflecting brilliances from golden inlays and looming sculptures ensconced with symbolism from the illustrious Khan era. Yet, amidst these grandiose displays of power, there was an undercurrent of urgency, whispers of discontent punctuating the rhythm of clattering boots and distant conversations. Orkhon, clad in his official garb, made his way through these corridors of influence. Each stride was measured, eyes steady, masking the relentless churn of thoughts solicited by the evening's revelations with Altai. The command room, his destination, housed the luminaries of the Empire's strategic operation. It was here that intentions were sculpted into tangible edicts, which spread across the Empire like wildfire, tracing fields of control and command. He entered the room, greeting each familiar face with the solemnity befitting the context. Maps detailing the entire expanse of the metropolis lay unfurled across a central table, strewn with symbols and insignias demarcating places of importance and suspicion. Around it stood his colleagues, some clad in the regalia of duty, others weaving through ranks as shadows, anonymous and ever watchful. His arrival was acknowledged with glances brief yet discerning, masking intricate evaluations behind professional facades. Soval Durin, positioned at the helm of this operation, was the damper of chaos, his presence molding disparate intent into cohesive action. Orkhon felt the familiar dawn of oppressiveness, the practiced assurance of a man accustomed to wielding authority like a scalpel, excising uncertainty with casual precision. Orkhon, Soval resumed after a pause calibrated for maximum effect. His voice cut through the ambient air like tempered steel, precise and forthright. Your insights have illuminated our path thus far. What news from your sectors? The room's attention coalesced into a singular focus on Orkhon, every heartbeat a testament to unspoken expectations that orbit such convocations. He navigated the stretch of silence, gathering his thoughts into a response honed by careful consideration. Activity remains visible yet subdued, Orkhon said, approaching the table to indicate specific locations with the trace of a gloved hand, a mapped galaxy of supposed peace. Section B has yielded minimal disruption, but its stability, as always, demands vigilance. Soval appraised Orkhon with the acuity of a falcon sighting prey, noting every twitch, every inadvertent gesture for inconsistencies. His silence screamed a discourse where only Soval knew all the questions. Does it now? Soval's response was a tapestry, woven to hold the half-colored wools of implication. Then we must enhance our surveys. Subtle resistance, as you'll agree, signals the ripest threat. Orkhon nodded, each movement cryptically encoded with alliances pledged in secrecy. The Empire's eyes, however, reflected only loyalty, a dichotomy he sustained through calculated guises. Soval shifted focus back to the group. We must not underestimate these veins of dissent. Each glimmer of unseen defiance should be met with calculated circumspection. The directives concluded with precision, and as the congregation began dissipating, Soval beckoned Orkhon toward a vast window overlooking the city, its towers and domes painting a skyline steeped in history and defiance. Walk with me, Soval ordered softly, yet his tone reduced refusal to impossibility. Orkhon followed, measured steps adhering to anticipated protocols. The two navigated the lengths of corridors rendered austere by history itself, their shared journey an orchestra of power, suspicion, and unspoken motives. Your methodical work has not gone unnoticed, Orkhon, Soval spoke with casual detachment as they moved. I require your observational prowess for a new assignment, a cryptic dispatch that surfaced last evening, hinting at movements deeper within, yet masked by feigned compliance. Orkhon absorbed the words, understanding the weight they bore. Whatever new puzzle Soval unveiled, it required scrutiny sharp enough to cut through engineered illusions. Of course, Soval, I serve where the Empire requires. There was an indistinct inflection, a nuanced echo of duality woven into Orkhon's voice. Soval paused before a broad window, the horizon framed within its edges, vast and consuming. Then be mindful, Soval advised, a rare edge of vulnerability breaking through. The web beneath these streets is intricately woven, its strands alike friend and foe. They stood together, guardian and prey, each perceiving the city below through a lens honed by ambition and carefully balanced deception. Orkhon recognized the unspoken pact. Soval's gift of the assignment doubled as an evaluation, a subtle unlocking of discretion. As conversations quieted, Soval took a long breath, prepared to strategize further. The Empire breathes, Orkhon, unceasing in its vigilance. Its heart beats within you and me alike. A surge of unbidden resolve rose within Orkhon, his existence a juxtaposition of competing shadows and burgeoning flames. The reality they upheld was an illusion nurtured by constraint, mastered by discretion. With one final exchange, Unarticulated in words but clearly residing within the jagged silence, Orkhon departed as the day waned, and the buzz of operations extended far beyond his departure, fledgling whispers barely captured within Soval's attentive grasp. Within a world cast amongst empires riding realms upon plains, Orkhon departed, ensnared yet emancipated by an existence negotiated between the truths he wore and concealed. Chapter 5. Echoes of Empire's Ascendancy. The relentless hum of the metropolis seemed distanced, as though Orkhon had been transported back through time to stand amidst the echoes of a pivotal epoch. He found himself drawn into memories, a kaleidoscope of vivid flashes that converged into the complex tapestry of the present, an alternate history where the Mongol Empire never faded but evolved, securing an unyielding grip on the world. It was the eve of the Great Unification, a moment memorialized in every textbook, constantly whispered in hushed tones of awe across generations. The vast steppes had groaned and glittered under the weight of armies united under a single banner, their unity forged through either fear or the promises of unmatched prosperity. The image of a young Genghis Khan lingered like a specter over the open plains, his vision unchallenged by the fractured tribes that once held sway over territories barren of cohesion. Through unparalleled conquest, this singular force redefined the boundaries not just of land, but of culture, extending the empire's reach through time with a grace unmatched by any preceding dynasty. Even now, Orkhon could still recall the gravity of that historic moment. It had been the foundation stone for every law, every script echoing power perched upon the mantle of omnipresence. Days upon which centuries teetered, reflected in the eyes of those who attended Khan's descent, visionaries and despots alike, whose names still colored the lessons drilled into every citizen of the modern empire. But woven amidst the narrative of victory lay untold stories, not recorded in official ledgers. They survived in the whispers of elders and were preserved through art and song, in lullabies that lamented the cost of ambition and the unseen chains of unity granted by edicts immortalized. In these clandestine tales lived the soul of a long-lost rebellion, waiting to rise anew in quietened hearts who dared remember truths near exiled. Orkhon's mind drifted, tracing the lineage between the ancient imperial courts and the current regime's sophisticated bureaucracy. He remembered sitting at his mother's knee as she recited the fables of unity, her voice laced with both pride and a questioning sadness, hinting at the contradiction threaded into the empire's genesis, a greatness shadowed by loss unspoken. The ornate chambers of the imperial library, where he had spent prolonged hours immersed in tomes both official and covert, came alive in his memory. There, within secreted alcoves, he had uncovered manuscripts detailing alliances not of substance, but necessity, illustrating that for every undaunted expansion, a soul had been lost to time. Such knowledge was carefully chronicled within the bindings of time itself. The advancement of technologies combined seamlessly with traditional hierarchies, illustrating an evolution at harmony with its origins, yet provoked by underlying tension, a marriage fortified by generations but tested by modernity's unprecedented dawn. As dusk settled over the city of the present, casting esoteric shadows across his modest haven, Orkhon could almost feel the weight of history bearing down, both imposing and enlightening. To wield the legacy of the Eternal Khan was a privilege bound with challenges, as much about remembering the past as it was pledging futures anew. The recess between legacy and reality guided Orkhon towards his unspoken mission, a call to decipher the echoes entwining his heart, fueling the subtle shift toward resistance. The fragmented stories of rebellion, paired with memories of his ancestors, emboldened his path, granting strength to follow the unseen trails of liberty. In this introspective cocoon, time slowed, offering Orkhon invaluable solitude to ponder his journey beyond the commands of Soval Duren and the eternal flame's unyielding embrace, missions charged by Empire's continuity, yet shadowed by the puzzle of his hidden allegiances. The resonance of those who came before whispered from corridors not yet explored. Fueled by the endurance overcoming silence and the determination to birth a new world from the bones of the old, Orkhon steeled himself. In his convictions, the past melded into the present, sowing seeds for a testament of change beyond the echoes of history, a shadow transformed by the flames of future generations. The city, in its tranquil ensconce, held no immediate answers. Yet among its twisting streets thrived the essence of change, as vibrant and serpentine as time itself, layering cosmic significance in mundanity. And through the rising night, Orkhon ever moved forward, an emissary of convergence between epochs, driven by the whispers of the forgotten past, merging seamlessly with the future's quiet promises. Chapter 6. Through the crowd, undeterred. The city's morning sun rose gradually over the metropolis, casting golden hues that were soon absorbed by the bustling streets, their vibrancy underscored by echoes of timeless Mongolian tradition. Orkhon navigated these thoroughfares, his eyes flickering like the pages of forbidden books, absorbing the kaleidoscope of daily life, suffused with tension and contradictions. The streets of this formidable city were a patchwork quilt, stitched together with lingering legacies of the empire. Yurt-inspired kiosks showcased goods from distant tributes, a testament to far-reaching conquest. The modernity of slick high-rises soared above these, casting shadows that mingled with the ancient echoes of a legendary past. The heartbeat of the city reverberated through its populace, each citizen unwittingly contributing a verse to an expansive, living epic. Orkhon's journey this morning was deceptive in its simplicity. He wove through crowds, his intentions shielded beneath the ordinary veneer of his official duties. His previous meeting with Sova loomed over him like a specter, each word from the advisor carefully dissected, revealing an intricate layer to his dual existence. This dance through the city was part of a carefully orchestrated act, a surveillance operation framed as loyalty to the eternal flame, while covertly threading awareness amongst potential allies. According to Sovel's directive, his eyes were to watch for disturbances, for subtle defiance depicted by small clusters of discontent. Yet, beneath these instructions lurked Orkhon's personal agenda, resurrecting the clandestine whispers shared with Altai during nights shrouded with intrigue. He paused before a bustling marketplace brimming with merchants who filled the air with hypnotic chants, advertising their myriad heirlooms. Here was the intersection of sworn duty and unyielding hope. Each person encountered a potential signpost pointing toward the emboldened resistance integrating within this tapestry. With a discerning eye, Orkhon surveyed those around him. He observed the trader whose discretion rivaled any philosopher, offering wares tinged with an aura of secrets held close. And there were the young pupils, their expressions rebellious and hopeful, flaunting imperial doctrines like unyielding civilians, brandishing a shared history told in vivid, subversive fashions. Orkhon approached a merchant stand whose owner he had passed numerous times before, an older man, his eyes sharp with the wisdom of those who had borne witness to regimes' rise and fall. Today, Orkhon inquired about a mundane object, but the exchange was intentional as his gaze shifted to meet the merchant's own, a silent plea for anything caught in the undercurrents beneath the surface transactions. "You are seeking something specific, are you not, honored sir?" The merchant's voice was woven into the air between them, soft yet piercing enough to invite curiosity. "A coin has two sides. It is always wise to know them both," Orkhon replied, the metaphor laced with quiet resonance only understood by an ever-observant few. Their brief interaction concluded with feigned indifference, but in an instant, a shared understanding locked their destinies like strands interlaced by an unseen loom. Orkhon moved on, leaving behind him a ripple of potential alliances echoing quietly within the wake of his passage. Amidst the everyday chaos of the market, Orkhon's path continued through burgeoning districts. He paused at strategically chosen cafes, resting briefly to watch and listen, absorbing tales unraveling amidst laughter and the clinks of teacups. Each word spoken was weighed against the urgency of their clandestine objectives, a code only he and Altai knew how to decipher in full. In the midst of these surveillance threads, Orkhon's consciousness wove together exhausted memories of all he'd been taught, of histories rewritten and oaths to an empire that masked its own fragility beneath bravado. Yet, every plotted alliance carved out here whispered truths of profound purpose, a shift brewing beneath doctrinal facades. The rest of the day passed in this manner, a tapestry of misdirection, intelligence gathered, and an unspoken understanding of those who diverged from complacency. In the shadows of the robust cityscape, Each encounter was either harbinger or guardian of change. The dichotomy of his ambitions merged seamlessly with life's symphony, a tightrope suffused with potential. As dusk approached, Orkhon found an unexpected solace amidst the bustling pathways. Here, the voices of merchants, travelers, and guardians melted into a singular resonance, a murmured chant of what could be, eclipsing the certainty of tradition with every small step taken undetected. In the unrest of a world situated beneath the eternal Khan's long shadow, Orkhon continued navigating these familiar streets. Strengthened by the inconsistencies of the empire, he perceived not just the path walked, but the directions it might unfold in a future rendered possible with each fleeting heartbeat. A legacy yet written, whispered from the yarn of once-upon-a-time conspirators who dared enliven alleys with stories still yearning to ignite. Chapter 7. The silent defiance of the countryside. As dawn's first light spilled over the horizon, painting the skies in hues of gold and pink, Orkhon departed the bustling metropolis for a distant village nestled amidst the undulating hills that bordered the sprawling city. This journey featured in the latest cryptic assignment Soval had handed him. A mission wrapped in subtlety, sparking Orkhon's curiosity and internal conflict. The village, far removed from the Empire's immediate scrutiny, was alive with whispers of silent defiance that intrigued him. By the time Orkhon arrived, the village was awash with mid-morning activity. Rustic homes, constructed with a blend of historical Mongolian yurt inspiration and modern durability, formed a semicircle around a bustling central plaza. Here, villagers convened for their day-to-day interactions, a community bonded by shared hardships, stories, and ambitions, whispered aspirations that carried far beyond the confines of their village life. Dismounting his horse, Orkhon was greeted by an air that resonated with both familiarity and unease. His presence, though unsullied by immediate threat, brought the Empire's shadow to this haven of gentle resistance. He moved through the village, his senses attuned to the nuanced practices that thrived under the guise of routine. In the marketplace, villagers exchanged goods with an efficiency honed by necessity. Orkhon observed subtle glances and coded gestures, each promising something unspoken, each transaction a potential facade for deeper intentions. His exploration was careful, not wishing to awaken the Empire's wrath upon these unsuspecting souls, but yearning to pinpoint those who could expand the Resistance's ever-growing lattice. A discreet rendezvous with the village elder had been arranged, facilitated by contacts who trusted him more than the uniform he wore. The elder was a man of few words, but significant influence, his wisdom gleaned from a lifetime of traversing between submission and rebellion, lessons etched in the lines of his weathered face. "My son," the elder began, a greeting layered with a warmth that stood in contrast to the severity of their hidden dialogue. "What brings you to our humble abode of whispers?" Orkhon's eyes met the elder's as he bowed respectfully, each syllable carefully chosen. "I seek wisdom," he confessed, the village's serenity momentarily wrapping him with a sense of clarity. They walked together, leaving the village's clamor behind, to stand beneath a canopy of ancient trees whose roots dug deep into the fertile earth, life mirrored by the quiet resistance growing beneath their feet. Here, conversations carried the weight of historical resonance, interwoven with the lightness of hope. "Our people," the elder mused, gesturing to the surrounding landscape, "are like these hills, rising and falling, yet always present. We learn to endure. Yet, in endurance, there grows a hunger for what lies beyond the shadow of the eternal Khan." There was courage in such words, couched amidst a lifelong dance with suppression. Orkhon felt the pull between duty and ideology stronger here, beneath the elder's piercing gaze. The time-honored dance took form not merely as rocket-high skyscrapers, but as villagers forging new paths and humming human spirit into mounted traditions. "Are your people prepared?" Orkhon posed, a question as much invitation as apprehension. The elder chuckled lightly, his eyes a flickering panorama of defiance carefully nurtured. "Prepared to stand, perhaps not to march. Haste, betrays many a rebellion." Their discussion unfurled, a tapestry constructed from mutual understanding and subtle confessions, traces of desire not unlike those Orkhon shared with Altai amidst the city's shadows. Here, however, the stakes were simpler, the complexities grounded by those whose lives bore the brunt of distant edicts. As they concluded their exchange, the elder imparted not only understanding but maps, both of terrain and of spirit. The village's role, symbol, and sustenance converged like tributaries merging into a larger river, laying stones for a future splashed by the droplets of a dawning revolution. Returning to the heart of the village, Orkhon felt a renewed urgency, freshly ignited by the fervor he found dispersed in secret looks and murmured vows. Here was a community ready in its quiet rebellion, echoing the larger struggle beyond rolling hills and city towers. These realities interlocked within him, reinforcing the narrative etched into Orkhon's conscience, not merely shadows but the resolve flickering beyond them. As he departed the village, the wind carried with it the soft refrains of a time yet to come, a world promising liberty interwoven with tradition, urging the conviction of those like Orkhon to step forth into its approached embrace. With every whisper echoed through the hills, Orkhon felt less like the bearer of divided loyalties and more the vanguard of potential change, a phoenix risen from histories shaped by both grandeur and loss, calling forth reparations that awaited far beyond the horizon. Chapter 8. Altai's Discovery. The moon hung high above the metropolis, its silver light casting soft shimmers along the edges of the skyscrapers and domes that defined the city's intricate skyline. Underneath this celestial vigil, the bustling world continued its dance, oblivious to the quiet revelations brewing within its heart. Within the safe confines of their shared sanctuary, a modest apartment tucked away from prying eyes, Altai meticulously pored over intelligence reports and clandestine communications. The duality of her life mirrored Orkhon's, marked by a delicate balancing act between sworn duty and whispered defiance. Tonight, however, there was an unusual urgency in her focus, a thread of potential unraveling through the Empire's woven narrative, a volatile strand she had unexpectedly stumbled upon. The room was dimly lit, casting a warm glow on Altai's figure as she deciphered the documents spread across the table. Her sharp, thoughtful eyes danced over coded paragraphs, piecing together a puzzle that had been gradually revealing itself through fragments of overlooked details and seemingly innocuous exchanges. As she uncovered hidden patterns, Altai's thoughts frequently drifted back to Orkhon, their parallel lives entwined here in moments of sanctuary, momentarily safe within walls that kept the Empire at bay. It was these moments that fueled her relentless pursuit of knowledge, as much as they fueled her deeper connection with him, a bond forged in secrecy and sustained by an unyielding resolve. Among the pages lay the diary of an unsuspecting official, his notes littered with references to meetings shrouded in layered subtleties, conversations detailed but not wholly understood. It chronicled murmurings within the inner circles of the eternal flame, hints of a dissenter who had emerged unbeckoned within the Empire, yet familiar. Altai's heart quickened with adrenaline-laced realization. This dissenter wasn't merely a rebel or implicit ally, it was a potential weak link, someone ensnared within the Empire's ranks, whose presence, if fully understood, could offer an unexpected advantage in a game where the stakes rose daily. She meticulously highlighted elements from the journal, her mind-mapping connections that could reinforce Orkhon's network against the growing surveillance Soval Durin had clasped around them. Within these clues, she spotted vulnerabilities, the system's cracks sewn together with the Empire's unwitting complacency, and through those cracks emerged possibilities as fragile as they were critical. Her fingers traced a line of text, noting the mention of a figure set to attend an upcoming council meeting. The location was coded in the journal, but it was a place Altai recognized, one echoing an ambivalent but important past encounter. Hidden in plain sight were coordinates, a hidden chamber within the great halls of the Empire known for their clandestine rendezvous. Here, she realized, lay the culmination of intrigue in a guise neither entirely friend nor foe. Altai leaned back from her work, letting her findings settle into place like an intricate mosaic coming to completion beneath her watchful care. Her findings could fuel Orkhon's secondary mission, strengthening their agenda within the layers of the resistance with precision and stealth. Yet, careful consideration tempered hope. This revelation was both a weapon and a burden, one that could amplify the Empire's encroachment if mishandled or if discovered too soon by Sovel's all-seeing eye. The balance remained precarious and the end unclear. Orkhon's arrival was silent, heralded only by the soft creak of the door and his unobtrusive entrance. Their gazes met, a silent understanding passing between them, laden with unspoken questions and assurances crafted in the shadows of their shared world. Orkhon, Altai greeted, her voice a gentle beckoning amidst the tension. "There's something you need to see." Curiosity flickered in Orkhon's eyes as he joined her side, the day's cares momentarily obscured by the introspective promise held within her findings. As she shared her discovery with Orkhon, explaining the significance of the hidden links and the strategic insight it offered, her voice was steady, considered, a testament to the weight of her own understanding. Orkhon absorbed the information in a thoughtful silence. The implications and opportunities unfurled before him, as profound and complex as any puzzle he had previously encountered. Reaching across the table, he grasped her hand, a simple, silent gesture conveying his gratitude and their shared resolve. "We must proceed with care," Orkhon concluded, his voice firm yet warm. "Our plans depend now more than ever on precision." As the night stretched on, they planned meticulously, weaving Altai's discovery into the larger fabric of their endeavor, every thread carefully positioned with the precision of a master strategist. Here, under the glow of low-hanging lamps, their resolve intensified, satisfying the tension of their dual existence with the ambition and longing for a world yet reshaped. Strengthened by Altai's acumen and the mutual trust nurtured in quiet defiance, they were poised to engage in the coming passages of this convoluted game, a quest for truth ensconced within the Eternal Khan's long-cast shadow. As new strategies took form, Orkhon felt the spark of hope ignite once more, a beacon diffused with quiet dignity, illuminating the night with the lingering promise of dawn, a dawn Altai and he were committed to endlessly pursuing. Chapter 9. The Sealed Message. The dawn was just a whisper, heard over the murmurs of the city as it shed its night curtain. Orkhon made his way through the streets the next morning, cloaked in his official persona. These walks to the Eternal Flame's headquarters had become second nature, a routine networking of Orkhon's conscious thoughts with the subversive undercurrents scarcely visible to the Empire's vigilant eye. In his hand was a message he had retrieved overnight from one of their covert communique drops, disguised as a mundane bureaucratic directive, but burdened with a promise far more ominous. The sealed envelope bore the official crest of the Eternal Flame, yet the paper was delicately imbued with an air of clandestine significance, its weight tangible beyond mere physicality. His instincts honed from years within the Empire's mechanisms suggested this communication was vitally important. A whisper of excitement entwined with caution played at his senses, pitching each step forward into a suspenseful rhythm. The contents would, Orkhon sensed, be integral to not merely his personal mission, but the collective fate of those enmeshed within the expanding rebellion Altai, and he nurtured. Cracking the seal, he withdrew a letter folded intricately, concealing layers of parchment with tightly scrawled script. The document felt ancient, nuanced, and rich, with a language that spoke through histories hoarded in shadow-filled tombs and sealed hearts. It hinted at relics from the Empire's founding era, objects overlaid with personal and political memories, believed encrypted with secrets capable of reframing the very tale perceived by generations. Relics of ages past intertwined, reputedly holding deep knowledge poised to alter the narrative of empire. Narratives so essential. They were beyond Sauvel's immediate purview, but their legends survived within whispers among those daring to dream of epochs beyond oppression. Orkhon paused beneath an awning of a centuries-old yurt-inspired building, the letter clutched in his unyielding grip. The reality began to frame itself as possibility rather than myth. Artifacts that perhaps housed encrypted truths, embodying narratives capable of relegating the Empire's perceived infallibility to the realm of doubt. A deep inhalation steadied him, stirring apprehension, tempered by conviction. This message could indeed be the linchpin to synchronize the rebellion's aspirations with a future defrosted by hope. The parchment crinkled softly as he deliberated swiftly, aware of the strategic behemoth lurking within the folds of his intentions. Yet caution whispered its necessity, a quieted fear that Soval and his retinue operated in proximity far too close for comfort, potentially offering the Empire's grasp on the momentary lead. The risk brewed amid curiosity, reflecting the inviolable tension inherent to Orkhon's every choreographed action. Resuming his path, each interaction was a measured step, poised between realms, tailored to manifest loyalty even as his mind bounded through untold plots. Objective accomplished, Orkhon proceeded with renewed intent, careful to shroud his pensive anticipation beneath a mask of normalcy. Within the sanctity of the Eternal Flame's command chamber, where whispers lacked purchase and quietness often ascribed calculation, Orkhon's demeanor mirrored his perfected craft, a cloak-wrapped tool necessary for each email read and meeting acknowledged. Hours later, and returned to their sanctuary, Orkhon spoke of this newfound mystery to Altai, sharing the envelope's discovery with eyes that shimmered with possibility layered upon danger. The relics, believed dormant in the bone chambers of libraries and forgotten archives, now beckoned their attention with renewed potency. This, he declared, tireless resolve stitched into the air, could be the foundation upon which we're poised to reshape an empire. Altai nodded, her focus sharpening on every word. A lattice of strategies unfolded in her mind's eye, opportunities sown from shared dreams, delivered amidst whispered scrolls enfolded by history's quiet grandeur. Then we must proceed, Altai affirmed, her voice a balm of clarity amidst the fraying uncertainty. Discerning the truth is as vital as the story it dismantles. And so their evening stretched into early dawn, strategizing, planning, binding sweeping ideas like constellations capable of carrying aspirations across reality-spanned fields. Orkhon unfurled avenues from Altai's acumen, together framing a narrative carved from change itself, a world glimpsed through the eyes of possibility, prepared for adventure only barely imagined. Here, in this uncharted pause between day and night, as shadows of the Eternal Khan loomed vast and untamed over them, these truths scribed in secrecy found their genesis, a blueprint of liberation simmering inside a residue of dreams. The hours turned, consuming the endless patterns of night, yet woven through their interchange were dreams invigorated, equally steady, carrying the flame kindled within, illumined by the cinematics of a different dawn, poised to reclaim their shared mantra, whispering undeterred, the artifacts lived. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. The Echoes of Ancient Tactics. The labyrinthine corridors of the city stood in silent testament to a history steeped in both glory and shadow, a merging of yurt-inspired architecture with the steel and glass of modern elegance. In this peculiar blend, Orkhon navigated the city's arteries with a practiced ease, all the while sidestepping the Empire's ever-watchful gaze. His current mission resonated with the strategic brilliance and tactical precision reminiscent of Genghis Khan himself, a blend of subterfuge, misdirection, and the harnessing of uncertainty. As he moved through the city, Orkhon's mind was a whirlwind of plans, each calculated maneuver designed to shield him from Soval Durin's tightening scrutiny. With the newly acquired intelligence from the sealed letter, Orkhon pieced together a semblance of a plan. The encrypted relics mentioned within whispered promises of alternate truths, narratives hidden in plain sight. They would offer a potent alternative to the dominant imperial decree if only the means to access them were found. Today, Orkhon's mission was both direct and obscure, a duality woven through with echoes of ancient Mongolian military brilliance. His destination was a library, an unassuming edifice at the city's heart, yet holding echoes of history within its formidable walls. Orkhon arrived just as the sun filtered through the city's towering skyline, casting long, dappled shadows across the cobblestones. The library was reminiscent of an ancient yurt, its rounded structure echoing stories long since forgotten by most, yet remembered by those who dared dissent. Inside its solemn halls, the relics of the Empire's founding lay nestled, silent sentinels to a past obscured but still breathing beneath layers of propagandized history. His presence in the library was inconspicuous amidst the scholars and researchers who quietly delved into volumes spread across time. Orkhon approached a particular wing dedicated to ancient histories, a repository meant to chronicle the rise of the Eternal Khan, but also, he suspected, to obscure the more inconvenient truths. With calm precision, Orkhon paged through documents, immersing himself in tales of conquest and governance, searching for coded references that aligned with the ideas in the sealed letter. His fingers brushed across passages laden with Mongol tactics, methods he found paralleled his current endeavors, using the empire's perception against itself, manipulating space and time, and directing attention while blurring realities. He realized the descriptions of these relics were carefully constructed maps, elements artfully encoded into history's very text that could not only be read, but unraveled. If mastery over these artifacts were achieved, they could potentially reframe the empire's lineage, embedding subversion within sanctioned lore. Hours slipped unnoticed, the afternoon sun growing heavy on the horizon. Orkhon gathered notes for Altai's keen mind, certain that her insight would be crucial in decoding these subtleties. Each entry breathed of cunning, tactics devised by the Temujin himself, hints that celebrated not only military might but the strategic intellect that had sustained dynasties. As Orkhon left the library, he couldn't help but feel a profound connection to the footsteps that had crossed these paths long before, a sensation as if converging inquisitions across centuries had bestowed stewardship upon him. The shadows lengthened among the streets, each turning bringing him closer to the sanctuary where Altai awaited. Together, they would consolidate these discoveries, weaving them into the delicate fabric of their resistance. His mind spurred with purpose. Every thought aligned with the unvoiced promises cast between them. Yet, as vigilant and calculated as they were, Orkhon remained aware that Soval's shadow loomed closer. This whisper of danger was not unwelcome, for it sharpened his senses like a honed blade, a testament to the ever-present game of pursuit and evasion. By the time Orkhon arrived at their sanctuary, the city had ebbed into night, its familiar hum casting a cloak of security over their future strategy and present fears. Inside, Altai greeted him, and their brief exchange of understanding ignited in their hearts a resolve renewed anew, a tapestry formed not just of defiance, but of a future cultured from history's untapped reservoirs. "Our path is becoming clearer," Orkhon spoke, laying out his findings with fervor. Altai's eyes mirrored his determination, each nod signifying not just comprehension, but partnership. "Then we rekindle the flame," Altai replied, her tone embodying both strategist and confidant, sealing their unyielding promise of transformation yet to come. Together, they embraced the deepest silent vow, a testament bound further by encrypted relics and ancient strategies burned into memory. Navigating between shades of empire and whispers of rebellion, they stood as pillars against time's relentless march, merging histories rewritten even as they crafted new thresholds of freedom. For amidst the echoes of ancient tactics, their quest found resonance anew, a faith secured not in shadows nor flame, but in the melding of both, moving towards a dawn unborn yet inevitable. Chapter 11. The Silent Observation of Soval Durin. The city pulsed with its usual energy as day slipped toward twilight, the skyline a melding of yurt-inspired peaks and modern high-rises, casting elongated shadows over streets teeming with life. Beneath this vibrant surface, hidden currents churned, echoes of age-old empires mingled with whispers of rebellion, all orchestrated with subtle precision by those stoking the flames of defiance. In a high-rise dominating the city's heart, Soval Durin sat at his desk, the room's wide windows framing a panoramic view of the metropolis stretching out like an intricate tapestry. His office was a blend of modern efficiency and historic references, with walls adorned by tapestries and artifacts from the glorious past of the Mongol Empire. Soval reclined slightly, hands steepled, his gaze not on the cityscape outside, but on the dossier before him. Pages detailing Orkhon's movements were spread across his desk, observations meticulously recorded by the web of surveillance that Soval orchestrated with the care of a master puppeteer. Soval was a patient man. His methods were not of the brash but of calculated exactness, understanding that the greatest threat often lay in what was not visible. Orkhon intrigued him, a trusted officer whose actions occasionally rippled beyond expected perimeters. His latest assignments had been followed with particular interest, the reports growing thicker with each concluded day. Nothing concrete yet, but Soval knew intuition was often the precursor to discovery. He picked up his tea with a steady hand, sipping thoughtfully. The richness of the brew mirrored the complexity he faced, a dance between loyalty and suspicion, orchestrated in shadows. Sovel understood the art of observation. It was not merely about watching, but perceiving the minutiae others missed. It was about hearing the whispers that lay below words, seeing the movements shrouded in stillness. Across his desk, the reports spoke of Orkhon's ventures into less conspicuous areas of the city, engagements with figures that did not attract attention unless viewed through the lens Sovel applied. The library visit had been noted, a routine task on the surface, yet Sovel knew where suspicions lingered. Caution thrived. His strategy was simple, yet profound, to draw Orkhon into a web of transparency while maintaining an impenetrable layer beneath. Sovel considered each move with an inevitability born of years honed within the Empire's political crucible, understanding well the weight of trust and deceit alike. Picking up Orkhon's dossier once more, Sovel leaned back, allowing his mind to thread through the layers of intrigue. Every encounter, every report, each seemingly benign detail captured was scrutinized to frame potential narratives. Orkhon's methodical demeanor, while reliable, masked intricacies Sovel was committed to unearthing. His actions are too disciplined to be coincidence, Sovel mused aloud, a quiet soliloquy offered to the room's echoing confines. Therein lay Sovel's pursuit, not a hunt but a chess game, requiring patience, strategy, and unwavering anticipation. As the city lights began flickering to life in the encroaching dusk, Sovel considered his path forward. The time had not yet ripened to cast any open doubt upon Orkhon. No, such actions would backfire without evidence substantiated beyond inference. Instead, there was power in observation, in guiding the strands unseen to precipitate reactions. He shifted his gaze beyond the dossier to the scape beyond his window. The city was a pulsating organism, its vibrancy reflecting dualities. Sovel maneuvered deftly within, the constructs of allegiance and sedition, order and dissent. It was within these fluctuating boundaries that he operated with acuity. The dynamics below might weaken, alter, or deepen the shadows webbed beneath. Sovel was determined, trusting his path was leading inevitably to revelations needed, attending to each part of the puzzle arranged by destiny. Sovel's hand hovered over his control panel before he made efficient selections, tasks assigned swiftly to expedite new directives. Still, beyond protocol prevailed Sovel's sharpened focus, a convergence of thought and action threading through his labyrinthine mind. He knew, beyond the fragility of this apparent calm, the storm of change had begun to brew. Sovel rose, his reflection merging momentarily with the city's sprawling vista. Control remained paramount in the Eternal Flame's vast repertoire, knowledge retained, shadows managed, and defiance anticipated. Orkhon was but one player in the Empire's extended narrative, and the schemes Sovel launched in silent observation were constructed to fathom layers beyond surface reflections. He recognized the game yet to be played, treasuring its nuances like the strategist he'd always been. Thus, Sovel persisted, as the night mused contemplatively at Shadow's thresholds, poised to embrace a realm where truth bowed not to servitude but to its own echo, a revelation Sovel anticipated uncovering with a precision etched across time's canvas. And as the city below dwindled into night, the inscrutable Sovel prepared to cast his own carefully obscured shadow, one which might illuminate paths Orkhon himself had not yet fully realized lay ahead. Chapter 12. Chapter 12. The Ethical Dilemma. Evening descended upon the metropolis in hues of twilight, casting the city in a cloak of secrets that blurred the lines between reality and illusion. Within the relative security of their shared sanctuary, Orkhon and Altai faced each other across the small table that had become the heart of their silent battles and whispered dreams. Their meeting came on the heels of Orkhon's recent discoveries and the unsettling awareness of Sovel's tightened scrutiny. The quiet of the room was a contrast to the turmoil that seemed to swirl beyond its walls, yet within it was seated the essence of a discussion both necessary and fraught with unseen currents. "How far are we willing to go, Orkhon?" Altai asked, her voice steady but weighted with the gravity of their conversation. Her eyes, sharp and discerning, sought his own, seeking answers that both knew lay buried beneath layers of obligation, loyalty, and rebellion. The question was not unexpected. Rather, it was a specter that had lingered in the periphery of their thoughts for some time, a reality they've danced around but never directly confronted. And in this moment, with the stakes climbing in tandem with Sovel's measures, it demanded attention. Orkhon leaned back, contemplating the ceiling as if hoping to trace their future within its intricacies. The low light curled around the contours of his face, illustrating the internal struggle he concealed beneath his composed exterior. "I suppose," he began, choosing his words with care, "it depends on what we're asked to sacrifice." Altai nodded, the gravity of his response deepening the space between them. "Sacrifice," she echoed, the word itself a bridge between obligations no longer content to remain unclear. There are those within the resistance who argue that sacrifice is necessary for change. And there are others who fear that too great a sacrifice could fracture what little is left of who we are, Orkhon countered, his voice a mixture of conviction and uncertainty, reflecting doubts shared by those who engage in games of shadows. The layers of their discourse interwove caution and hope, an ongoing dialogue where each participant carried their own evidence of deeds done and sights unseen. Here, against the encroachment of a vast empire, the ethics of their endeavor bore scars personal and poignant. Altai's gaze was unwavering, binding them in shared truths too tenuous to dismiss lightly. "Do we become like those we resist, Orkhon? We aim to preserve a narrative that honors the past while promising a new tomorrow. If that requires sacrifice, how do we choose what or who to yield? Within this crucible of interlocking lives and hidden reliance, every sacrifice must be balanced, each trust weighed against the risks inherent to such a clandestine undertaking." For Orkhon, the mission was changing, a realization that commitment to a cause might ask more than he was prepared to concede. They sat in silence, their conversation simmering in the shadows. Orkhon's thoughts were a kaleidoscope of memories, layered with the warmth of Altai's presence and the cold reflection of history's unforgiving gaze. Each decision had ramifications beyond his immediate perception, a ripple effect that could unravel futures yet to unfurl. Altai's voice softened as she leaned forward, bridging the space primarily occupied by apprehension. "We've chosen to walk this path knowing its potential costs. And yet every day, our goal isn't to become the Orkhon. It's to find a truth long hidden." Her words were a balm, undulating through fraught silence with the ease of one who understood the stakes yet remained resolute. They were confessors of an unrealized dream refracted through time, impossible to deny, essential to pursue. Together they crafted plans tempered by shared commitment. They would inch forward, propelled by curiosity and purpose, amplifying their ethical resolve to heed the quiet calls of a myriad futures awaiting liberation. In this intimate space, their unspoken agreement lay interwoven with silence, a tapestry of integrity, resilience, and a defiance born not so much of aggression, but of enduring hope against a cold horizon. As night deepened, Orkhon gently took Altai's hand, feeling the pulse of their shared existence, to resist, to preserve, to cautiously transcend. "Together," he whispered, the sentiment both a promise and acknowledgement, carrying them beyond half-spoken fears and into a night now defined not by uncertain shadows but by an unwavering flame, a flicker of possibility despite the looming reality of what sacrifice might demand. Their words lingered in the room long after they'd been spoken, oddly comforting, a beacon in their ongoing passage through a storm of ideology and history. For now, the battle was here, in whispers exchanged over the dim-lit distance of a single candle, one tiny, fragile light amidst the indomitable shadow of an eternal empire. Chapter 13. The Burden of Legacy. The soft glow of the morning sun crept into Orkhon's office, casting elongated shadows across the room like silent guardians of the past. Orkhon leaned against the wide windowsill, gazing at the bustling city below. The metropolis spread out like a vivid tapestry, a blend of past and present, where stories of his ancestors whispered in the wind. Today was different. The familiar weight of his dual existence as an officer of the Eternal Flame and a key member of the Resistance felt heavier than usual. Memories fractured by time pulled him into a reverie, demanding attention as vivid as the landscape before him. They were echoes of a distinct lineage, a legacy ingrained into the very fabric of his being. Orkhon's thoughts drifted back to a pivotal moment in his life, a flashback that vividly painted the scenes of his childhood home. It was a place infused with the grandeur and solemnity of empire, located on the fringes of the city, yet offering a panoramic view of the great advances engineered by his forefathers. In this memory, the air was filled with a heady mix of tradition and expectation. Orkhon stood in the main hall, its grandeur undeniable, resonating with stories immortalized in art and architecture. Here, his family, revered linchpins of the empire's power structure, had gathered countless times to discuss matters of state, bound by a sense of duty as old as the empire itself. His father, a towering figure of authority, stood at the heart of these memories. Esteemed and respected, he had been a trusted advisor to the empire, a voice that resonated with conviction in the Council of the Eternal Flame. Orkhon often felt the weight of his father's gaze, a mixture of pride and expectation that both motivated and constrained him. That particular day, his father had called upon Orkhon, initiating him into the world of unspoken truths that entwined the empire's power with its hidden fears. He spoke of the secrets passed through generations, the unyielding burden of legacy, and the crucial balance required to ensure the survival of the empire. "Our family," his father had intoned, his voice echoing within the vast hall, "is the backbone of this great machine. We are bound to the empire, Orkhon, as much as it is bound to us. Our duty is not just a task, it is an inheritance." Orkhon had listened intently, the weight of his lineage permeating his very being. Even then, as a young man, he sensed the veiled tension between duty and personal truth, a line he would walk for the rest of his life. He had admired his father, but also recognized the shadows that haunted his eyes, specters of sacrifices made in the name of loyalty. That day had marked the beginning of Orkhon's lifelong conflict, silently driving him towards the resistance, even as he fulfilled his duties within the empire. It was a duality that defined him, a confluence of allegiance and rebellion born from the very teachings meant to bind him to the empire's will. In the present, Orkhon shook himself from the grasp of memory, meeting his own reflection in the window, a man shaped by the whispers of ancestors and the unspoken vows shared with Altai. The path he traversed was not entirely his own. It was both a continuation and subversion of a heritage steeped in honor, yet ripe for change. His thoughts turned to the resistance leaders he was to meet, figures who, like him, carried the weight of legacy while daring to imagine a world anew. They would gather amidst ancient ruins, places where history had been etched in stone long before empire had become impenetrable and eternal. Orkhon was committed, not just as a participant, but as a visionary propelled by the whispers of time. These memories reinforced his resolve, serving as a reminder of the complex dance required to honor past commitments while steering towards a future carved from dreams and whispers. The path was fraught with shadows cast by history's lengthy embrace, yet Orkhon found solace in the bond he shared with Altai, her presence a beacon amidst the storm of his obligations. Resolute for the day's challenges, Orkhon left his office, stepping into the city's embrace, its mosaic of tradition and modernity reflecting in his stride. The legacy he carried was both a burden and a shield, guiding him through the shadows of the Eternal Khan's empire as he walked towards a destiny shaped by both history and the unyielding promise of rebellion. And so, under the sun's growing glow, Orkhon once more became a silent herald of change, a link between the empire of old and the revolution yet written, an echo amidst the countless legacies yearning for rebirth. Chapter 14. Ruins and Requite. The air was thick with anticipation as Orkhon made his way to the appointed meeting place, a mosaic of ancient ruins standing defiantly against the encroaching spirit of the metropolis. These ruins, remnants of a time when empire sprawled uninhibited and unchallenged, possessed a haunting beauty, their silent stones whispering secrets of ages past. Here, the stratified echoes of history melded with modern resolve, creating a sacred space where rebellion could safely take root. Meeting amidst these ancient sentinels felt fitting, a symbol of the enduring defiance that thrummed beneath gray stone and carcass entwined overhead. As Orkhon approached, a sense of connection washed over him, the tactile presence of history grounding his thoughts in the present. Within the shadows of once majestic pillars, resistance leaders gathered, each carrying their own piece of the struggle's mosaic. They bore the burdens of their ancestors alongside the passion for change, knowing that their individual contributions formed an intricate dance of unity against the omnipotent empire. Orkhon joined the loose circle, nodding in silent greeting to his fellow insurgents. Their eyes, keen and watchful, radiated shared determination. Among them stood figures he admired, visionaries who, like him, had chosen to tread paths that strayed from familial scripts, forging destinies unclaimed by the empire's grasp. The leader of the gathering, a formidable woman named Ulana, her silhouette framed against the weathered stones, began with urgency. "Our actions thus far have not gone unnoticed," she began, her voice carrying the weight of their endeavor. "The Empire's watchful eyes grow ever more astute, and we must respond with agility and foresight." A murmur rippled through the crowd, acknowledgement of both the risks they faced and the threats that encroached with Sovaldurin's persistent scrutiny. Orkhon, catching Ulana's gaze, felt a silent charge pass between them. Here was an ally who understood the delicate balance required to challenge the Empire from within. "The encrypted relics," Orkhon spoke, stepping forward, his words like the wind's crescendo amidst the silent stones. "They are the key to reframing our narrative. They hold the truths that can dismantle the Empire's tightly walled history." The group leaned in closer, eager to grasp the arcane knowledge Orkhon shared, details Altai and he had deciphered, leading them to understand the significance of relics long assumed impotent. Ulana nodded, gesturing for Orkhon to continue. "We must plan to recover these artifacts," she urged, her voice calm yet resolute. "Our future depends on our ability to subvert the Empire's tale and replace it with unvarnished truths." Orkhon nodded, aware that this mission transcended personal ambition. It was a collective pledge to generations past and future, those who quietly rebelled and those who might one day revel in newfound freedoms. The ruins seemed to echo these sentiments, their stones alive with the gravity of purpose. The discussions unfolded, rich with strategic nuance. Each spoke, their contributions weaving together the complex threads of rebellion, an intricate tapestry laden with risk, yet shimmering with the promise of renewal. Details of routes, hidden passageways, and insights gleaned from Altai's discoveries intertwined with the names of those who would aid them. A patchwork planning session born of necessity and avant-garde resolve. As hours melted into shadows cast by the setting sun, the meeting drew to a close. Orkhon felt the weight of their collective endeavor, a burden and gift, binding disparate destinies into a singular orbit. Before departing, Ulana placed a hand on Orkhon's shoulder, her grip firm yet reassuring. "You must tread carefully, Orkhon. Soval's gaze may lay path ahead, but we rely on your presence within his shadow." Her words were a charge he accepted willingly, the knowledge of their trust fueling his commitment to the cause. As the group disbanded, silently weaving their way back into the city's expanse, Orkhon remained behind momentarily. The ruins held a power he couldn't readily articulate, both grounding and inspiring. Standing amidst history's resilient echoes, Orkhon found clarity amid the confusion churning within. He was a beacon of the resistant spirit, alive with the promise of change, chasing a future where legacies lingered and new narratives emerged. Returning to the city, the legacy that perpetuated his identity transformed from burden to catalyst, motivating him towards a rebirth destined to reshape not only the world around him, but the very consciousness of the Empire itself. And as night cast its gentle embrace upon the city, Orkhon felt fortified beneath the stars. His destiny, woven through with ancestral promise and contemporary resolve, urged him forward, each step an insistent beat toward freedom hidden in plain sight. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. The Hidden Chamber. The morning air was crisp as Orkhon made his way through the waking city, the rising sun casting its golden light on streets, continuing the seamless dance of tradition and modernity. The metropolis breathed with the steady pulse of its inhabitants, orchestrating their daily lives beneath the towering coalescence of past and present. As he moved, Orkhon's mind lingered on the ruins, on the meetings and whispered promises that stoked the flames of rebellion within him. The sense of purpose he'd found among those ancient stones simmered like coals beneath his determined exterior, purpose reinvigorated by the burden of legacy now realized as a transformative tide seeking the shore. Today's mission was one of paramount importance, a surreptitious journey into the unknown, sparked by the encoded directions Ulana had entrusted him with at the ruins. In his pocket rested a folded parchment, its contents a map and series of clues pointing him towards what might be the heart of the Empire's closely guarded secrets, the hidden chamber. If the encrypted relics were as significant as they were believed to be, they would offer the narrative shift necessary to catalyze the revolution's momentum. These artifacts, veiled beneath layers of silence, held the potential to rewrite the very history constructed by the Eternal Flame. Orkhon's destination was an unassuming building masked as a government archive facility, a place he'd passed countless times but never entered. It was here that the map led, its inconspicuous exterior belying the strategic significance held within. He entered with a casual diligence ingrained by necessity, his demeanor a practiced guise of detachment. The building's interior was a labyrinthine warren of shelves, packed with meticulously arranged documents chronicling the Empire's extensive and curated history. Dust motes danced in the streaming light from high windows, undisturbed by the singular task that occupied Orkhon's thoughts. Navigating the aisles with purpose, he traced the map's instructions, allowing the breadcrumbs of history to guide him deeper into the depths of classified knowledge. The hallways seemed to close in around him, their narrow confines amplifying the gravity of his mission. His journey led him to a seemingly forgotten section of the archive, a corridor whose quiet obscurity and worn, faded signs attested to its age and minimized traffic. Here he paused, consulting the parchment once more. The map spoke of a hidden mechanism, a relic of ancient engineering that could divulge access to what lay beyond. After a quiet moment of contemplation, Orkhon let his fingers brush over the surface of a seemingly ordinary archway. The cold stone felt alive beneath his touch, whispering an ancient tongue only comprehended by those who dared seek its dormant truths. With a gentle press, a hidden panel clicked, revealing an intricate lock, a puzzle painstakingly blended into the surrounding bas-relief. Orkhon worked swiftly, each turn and shift of the mechanism guided by an instinct intertwined with the teachings of yesteryears, those infused by his ancestors who believed in the sanctity of the Empire's veiled history. A final twist, and the lock released with a muted clang, unveiling a passage that had remained sealed from common knowledge. Orkhon stepped inside, eyes adjusting to the dimness of a chamber untouched by decades. The room stretched beyond its initial confines, illuminated by the ethereal glow of shielded skylights high above. Dust receded like a frightened specter, unsettled by the sudden presence. And there, at the chamber's center, rested a series of ornate chests, their surfaces carved with Mongolian script that chronicled tales at variance with those hosted upstairs. Each chest was secured, bound by latches and slender chains, etched with symbols that resonated with mystery and promise. These were the encrypted relics, the heart of a history subverted, waiting to breathe a narrative long buried. Orkhon's hand lingered over the inscriptions, tracing fragments of text with reverence. The significance was overwhelming, a trove of potential truths that could unravel the meticulously woven tapestry of Empire lies. In them lay the potential to rekindle a spark that would burn brighter than the eternal shadows cast by the Khan's legacy. Gathering what he could, Orkhon set to work, his keen mind and careful sketches preserving every detail Altai would need to unlock the layers beyond. With each document handled, a fraction of the truth broke surface, as if inviting their world to witness its unveiling. After what felt like a timeless span, Orkhon reluctantly restored the chamber to its silent vigil, the weight of history again concealed behind layers of locks. He mused on the past and future tethered together within these confines, an enigma awaiting a decisive stroke, one not of blade but pen. Returning to the light-filled corridors above, Orkhon felt the echo of the chamber murmuring in his soul. As he exited the building, the city embraced him once more, knowing not of the revelations its quiet depths shielded. Yet for Orkhon, every step carried the cadence of action, his mission rendering shadows tangible, each parting breath a promise to the whispered ambitions that lingered still. Chapter 16. Chapter 16, The Noose Tightens. The city bustled beneath the midday sun, casting its radiance over the elaborate tapestry of traditions interwoven with modern life. Yet, Amid the sprawling metropolis, threads of tension began pulling taut, tightening the noose around Orkhon as Sovaldurin's intelligence network closed in. Orkhon's recent forays into hidden chambers and deceptions had not gone unnoticed. Though his mask of loyalty remained firmly in place, Sovel, with his unerring intuition, suspected currents beneath Orkhon's calm exterior, waves that threatened to unseat the Empire's narrative if left unchecked. Inside the Eternal Flame's headquarters, Sovel convened a select group of operatives, his most trusted cadre, amidst a web of suspicion. Maps and dossiers cluttered the room, exuding the scent of aged parchment and polished steel, an ambiance befitting an empire built on centuries-old conquest and control. Sovel stood at the center, his gaze like a razor's edge, slicing through each piece of information brought before him. He had spent weeks mapping connections, threading through Orkhon's apparent loyalties and the shadows that surrounded him. The time had come to address the lurking question: was Orkhon an asset or an imminent threat? We must discern whether his actions are those of a loyal officer or a double agent, Sovel pronounced, his voice cool yet resonant with authority. His movements suggest more than mere diligence. The advisors exchanged glances, some uneasy, while others nodded in agreement. They ventured their insights, bits and pieces of surveillance, anomalies in behavior, cryptic conversations overheard but never fully deciphered. Sovel listened intently, filing each contribution in the vast repository of his mind, a place where precision met intuition with a lethal efficiency. And yet, Sovel continued, we have no concrete evidence. Our challenge is to uncover his true allegiance without alerting him to our scrutiny. Outside, Orkhon navigated the city's labyrinth, unaware of the tightening grip on his dual life. He carried with him the gleanings of his mission, the knowledge of encrypted relics, and the strategic alliance among resistance leaders, all concealed beneath the veneer of duty to the Empire. Orkhon's thoughts were a blend of purpose and precaution. Every day was an exercise in balance, every encounter a potential fulcrum upon which his future could pivot. He knew Sovel's eyes were everywhere, yet his own commitment kept him vigilant, guided by the conviction laid forth by his forebears and the urgency awakened in undisclosed chambers. As Orkhon made his way to an unobtrusive cafe, his senses remained attuned to the city's pulse. Here, among the slicing clatter of cups and the murmur of patrons, coded exchanges were sometimes whispered, the city's heartbeat in sync with the resistance's quiet defiance. Taking a seat, Orkhon allowed himself a brief respite, his expert surveillance taking in the surroundings with an air of calm detachment. The cafe, like many such spots in the city, served as a convergence point for those on both sides of the shadowed struggle, participants often unaware of their roles in an unseen war. His moment of calm was interrupted by a presence heavy with authority. A younger officer from the Eternal Flame entered, scanning the room before settling at Orkhon's table with deliberate casualness. Orkhon, the officer greeted, his tone carrying a curious blend of deference and intrigue. Sovel has tasked me with an update on recent operations. Orkhon raised an eyebrow, regulating his pulse with the ease of long practice. Of course, he replied smoothly, arranging his expressions as if cards in a perfect hand. What is the message? The officer leaned in, the shadow of earnestness in his posture varying the atmosphere. There are whispers of a significant operation in the works. Sovel wants assurance that all officers remain diligent, that our eyes are keener than any hidden adversaries. Consider it done, Orkhon assured, concealing his inner alarm at the proximity of the hunting pack. The updates hinted at the sensation simmering beneath the surface, Sovel's scrutiny encroaching nearer with each passing moment. With the visit concluded, the officer departed, leaving behind an air of foreboding mingled with the scent of roasted beans. Orkhon remained seated, absorbing the encounter's implications. The noose was indeed tightening, necessitating precision in every step forward. As he left the cafe, Orkhon was acutely aware of the dance of shadows following him, whispering promises of unraveling truths or immediate danger. The operation to decipher the relics and circumvent Sovel's relentless pursuit required the utmost subtlety, a symphony of innovation and secrecy caught between destiny's relentless threads. And yet, despite the mounting urgency, Orkhon felt a steadfast resolve. His partnership with Altai, his faith in their cause, fortified him against the oncoming storm. Even amidst the narrowing path ahead, hope gleamed, a light kindled by the collective yearning for freedom. Within the city's undulating embrace, Orkhon continued to move through its passages, an agent of change, camouflaged beneath the empire's yesterday, anticipating what might be tomorrow. The noose might tighten, Sovil might close in, but Orkhon was prepared, poised to maneuver between history's shadows and the light of possibilities unbound. Chapter 17. Chapter 17. Navigating Love Under Siege. The moon hung low over the metropolis, its silvery glow filtering through the curtains of the small apartment where Orkhon and Altai sat across from each other. The comfort of their sanctuary felt strained under the weight of increasing pressure from both the Empire and the Resistance. Here, their love became a reflection of balance, a delicate dance between their private desires and the overarching duty that called them to a greater purpose. The table that separated them bore witness to countless conversations, relaying whispered hopes and strategic recounts beneath the flicker of a single candle. Tonight, however, the flicker felt like a heartbeat, sustaining them through the undertow of unseen threats. Altai broke the comfortable silence, her voice a soothing melody amidst the creeping dread. "The world outside feels tighter every day," she said, her eyes conveying a mix of yearning and resolve, like a vice slowly squeezing everything we hold dear. Orkhon nodded, reaching across the table to intertwine his fingers with hers. The warmth of her touch grounded him, offering a moment of reprieve from the entangled web of his existence. Yet, amidst this tightening grip, we carve moments like these. They are our lifeline. His words were both an affirmation and a reminder. The stakes of their clandestine love mirrored the stakes of their mission. In each other's company, they found solace and strength to persist, despite Sovil Durin's looming presence, despite the Empire's omnipresent watchfulness. Altai's gaze softened, and she squeezed Orkhon's hand gently. "We must remain vigilant, Orkhon. The nuances of Sovil's scrutiny are closing in on us, but this," she motioned between them, "this gives me the courage to continue." There was a vulnerability in her admission that sparked a fire in Orkhon's heart, rekindling the flames of their shared purpose. It was that vulnerability, shared in their quietest moments, that fortified them against the outside world's chaos. "Altai," he spoke, his voice resonant with emotion and determination. "The path before us is fraught, but within each challenge lies the opportunity to reforge the bonds of our world. The encrypted relics are our key, not just to rewrite history, but to pave a future where we can live with unburdened hearts." She smiled, the corners of her lips curling upward with a mixture of amusement and hope. "It's that vision which keeps me steadfast. Our dual existence is no small task, but in our resolve, I see more than survival. I see the possibility of thriving beyond the shadows." Their conversation wove through the night, each exchange a thread of intimacy, binding them tighter in defiance of the world's demands. The city around them thrummed with life, unaware of the plans hatched and love nurtured within the modest confines of an apartment poised between rebellion and routine. The hours stretched, and as dawn's early light began to gently caress the horizon, there was a profound stillness, a calm before both the sunrise and the oaths that seized their thoughts from early on. "It's time," Altai murmured finally, voice tinged with the bittersweet knowledge that their private sphere would soon yield again to their public personas. Orkhon nodded, conflict mirrored in his eyes. "Yet we emerge with more than we took in," he assured, rising and pressing a final lingering kiss upon her hand, a gesture steeped in promise and gratitude. Before leaving, they stood at the window, the city unfurling beneath them. A living entity, woven with narratives of hope and despair, interlaced as deftly as the Empire's historic reaches. Embedded within its dense framework, their love story thrived, a testament to resilience nourished by the possibilities curving on the horizon. As they parted ways for the day's endeavors, their shared resolve fortified their separate paths, fueling a semblance of harmony between the echo of stillness and the reverberating pulse of their united cause. Thus, through entangled realities and under ever-watchful eyes, Altai and Orkhon navigated their formidable existence, a love ethic born in tender moments, guiding them through the shadows of empire into the dawn's luminescent embrace. Chapter 18. whispered defiance on the majestic plains. The rolling expanse of the steppe sprawled endlessly beneath the vast azure sky, a land finely balanced between the ancient echoes of Genghis Khan's cavalry and the modern rumblings of the resistance. Here, where the city's tightening clutch slackened into open plains, a secretive world flourished. Orkhon's journey to this clandestine sanctuary was a calculated risk, navigated under the same sky that had witnessed empires rise and crumble. He rode at dawn, the chill of the morning air, a reminder of the stakes shadowing his every move. His heart beat a steady cadence of resolve, driven by the whispered promises of freedom spoken beneath city lights. As he approached the training ground, nestled between low hills that folded like the pages of an unwritten epic, Orkhon was struck by the serenity of the place. Yet beneath this calm lay tireless activity, an uprising wish in miniature formed by those ready to rewrite the iron scripts of destiny. The camp itself was a marvel of ingenuity, crafted with discretion amidst the natural features of the landscape. Tents echoed the yurt designs of yore, affording the rebels a semblance of tradition while modern tactics honed their edge. Young men and women moved with purpose, their activities a symphony of coordinated preparation. This was a place where dreams fused into strategies. Here, the silent defiance against tyranny transformed into tangible hope. And in the midst of these operations stood Altai, her presence a pillar among the clandestine cadres, orchestrating the various elements with her characteristic blend of intellect and intuition. Orkhon dismounted, his arrival garnering a few discreet nods from those aware of his dual role. He felt the steadfast spirit coursing through the air around him, a current of solidarity entwining with the freedom these silent warriors sought. Altai welcomed him with a smile that belied the weight of their shared burdens, a momentary balm against the encroachment of their struggles. "You made it," she said, her voice a gentle buoy in the sea of tension that defined their efforts. "I could think of nowhere else I'd rather be," replied Orkhon, the sincerity threading through his words like a promise. Together they walked through the camp, Altai guiding him through the latest developments. "These fighters are readying themselves for something greater," Altai explained, her gaze following a group of trainees as they practiced maneuvers. "They're learning to counter the Empire's forces, not just in might, but in agility." Orkhon took in the scene with a measure of pride. Those gathered here were not merely resisting. They were evolving, crafted by necessity into a force that could withstand the relentless current of oppression. Within their ranks lay the potential to ignite change from the roots upward. The training exercises he observed unfolded with precision, formations drawn from history yet adapted to modern warfare. Strategies mirrored those of ancient battlefields, where tact and timing could outmaneuver even the most formidable foe. "Each rebel trained here," said Altai, "moves with a purpose not just learned, but lived. In their unity is our greatest strength." Her words struck a chord with Orkhon, tapping into the resolve that had burgeoned from a youthful dream into an unwavering conviction. Here, in the open expanses, possibilities emerged, unchained by the city's imposing walls. They paused before a group engaged in strategizing map positions under a canopy mirroring the steppe's vast horizons. Orkhon recognized among them faces of resolve and tenacity, leaders both nascent and rising. "We're working on new infiltration tactics," one of the leaders informed Orkhon, his tone imbued with the determination of those who had nothing left to lose but their chains. Orkhon nodded, feeling the strength of the narrative woven through their collective effort, a testament to the conquest not of lands, but of ideals. The day passed with rigorous drills, interspersed with moments of rest beneath the watchful sky. Here, amidst whispered strategy and silent pledges, the steps were laid for a dance that could disrupt the Empire's rhythm. Each action, down to the most minute adjustment of a hand, held weight, each move signifying a motion towards freedom. As dusk settled, painting the plains in shades of gold and amber, Orkhon stood with Altai on a rise overlooking the camp. The panorama stretched infinitely, a world undiscovered yet inviting, urging them towards a destiny unscripted by empires past. "This place was a risk," Altai murmured, "but it's a necessary step. Out here, away from the watchful city, we're free to dream on a grand scale." Orkhon nodded, gazing upon the expanse, a realm capable of holding their vision. With each step, we edge closer to that horizon. Together, we'll shift this world towards truth and light. Their thoughts hovered, beholding a future unbound by sovereignty's shadow, a horizon as expansive as the plains themselves. With hearts emboldened by these whispered bonds of defiance, they turned back towards the camp, an epitome of hope in the enveloping dusk, a beacon glimpsed within the eternal empire's slowly encroaching night. Chapter 19. Chapter 19. Decoding Shadows. The city was shrouded in a twilight haze as Orkhon returned from the plains, the secrets of the newly discovered chamber heavy in his mind. The encrypted relics, though still a mystery, resonated with a potential that both thrilled and terrified him. They were a key, not just to unlocking the Empire's closely guarded narratives, but to unraveling the very foundation upon which the current regime stood. Orkhon found himself once again within the confines of his modest sanctuary, greeted by Altai's embrace. Her presence was both comforting and invigorating, a reminder of their shared mission and unyielding bond. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows across scattered documents, a silent testament to their ongoing struggle against the looming empire. With a steady breath, Orkhon laid out his findings from the hidden chamber before Altai. The parchments inscribed with forgotten symbols and passages detailing the relics lay scattered between them, their cryptic allure inviting further inspection. "These relics," Orkhon began, his voice imbued with urgency and reverence, "they carry the weight of truths forgotten by time. Deciphering them could change everything." Altai nodded, her eyes tracing over the intricate markings on the parchment. "We must proceed carefully. Soval's scrutiny is tightening, and any misstep could lead not just to our downfall, but that of the entire resistance." Her words grounded Orkhon, reminding him of the delicate balance they lived by, each victory a mere step away from potential disaster. Yet, the fire in Altai's eyes spoke of a shared determination, a conviction that was both a shield and a spear. Together, they delved into the task at hand. Altai's background in archaeological studies and her innate ability to discern patterns were invaluable as they painstakingly pieced together the fragments of history hidden within the relics. The symbols were a blend of old Mongolian script and codes that seemed to resist modern comprehension, their meanings buried beneath layers of imperial rhetoric. Orkhon watched as Altai skillfully approached the task, her mind working in overdrive as she deciphered the elegant but elusive text. The room grew quiet, except for the gentle rustle of paper and the low hum of their contemplations, a quiet symphony of determination and intellect. Hours slipped away unnoticed, punctuated by brief exchanges and shared revelations. The cryptic passages slowly began to take form, revealing remnants of knowledge that challenged the Empire's long-standing edifice. They spoke of alliances entered into out of necessity rather than genuine loyalty, of kings and generals whose names had been scrubbed from the official records, now whispering from the shadows of forgotten tomes. Amidst these revelations came the unnerving realization that the Empire's narrative, so long presented as unassailable truth, was riddled with omissions and half-truths. The very foundation upon which the eternal flame was built teetered on the precarious edge of alternate histories. Finally, as dawn's light began to seep in from the horizon, bathing the room in a gentle glow, Altai leaned back with a satisfied smile. "Here," she said, pointing to a cluster of unlocked passages that hinted at a significant but hidden alliance, a decision made out of desperation rather than strength, a moment where fear had driven the Empire's hand. Orkhon marveled at the fragments assembled before them, new connections forming in his mind. "This alters everything," he murmured, echoing Altai's earlier sentiment. "With this knowledge, we could disassemble their narrative piece by piece and place our own truths at the center." But even as the implications of this new understanding sank in, there was an undercurrent of trepidation. Each passage decoded, each relic unmasked, was a step deeper into uncharted waters, a realm ripe with potential but fraught with peril. As the sun ascended, flooding the room with light and chasing away the lingering shadows, Orkhon felt a renewed vigor. Their evening of revelation had gifted them with tools more powerful than any weapon, a narrative poised to challenge the omnipotence of the Empire. Reinvigorated, Orkhon met Altai's gaze, the warmth of their shared achievement reflected in her eyes. Together, he said with a conviction tempered by the night's enlightenment. We'll reshape this world, one truth at a time. Their resolve echoed silently in the room, an unspoken vow carried on the morning breeze, a promise of change hidden not merely in shadows, but in the light of a new day, poised to illuminate every corner of the empire, long trapped in its self-imposed darkness. Chapter 20. Chapter 20. The Growing Shadow. The metropolis hummed along its arteries of life, unaware of the secrets unfurling in the microcosm of Orkhon and Altai's sanctuary. As the city shifted through the motions of an ordinary day, beneath the surface loomed a profound tension, a tightening grip wielded by Sovel Durin's unyielding pursuit of answers. While Orkhon and Altai meticulously sifted through the relics, Sovel had been conducting his own line of inquiry. He was a man of calculated patience, and rules of engagement governed his every move. To him, Orkhon was an anomaly, a seemingly loyal officer whose edges did not align perfectly with the Empire's smooth veneer of control. Orkhon's recent ventures into neglected archives, his meetings with figures only partially revealed by Sovel's surveillance, resonated with an energy Sovel could neither ignore nor entirely comprehend. This, combined with his trusted sources, formed the pieces of a puzzle that Sovel was determined to solve. As day broke, Sovel reviewed detailed reports, a digital sea of potential truths and deceptions. His commitment to unraveling Orkhon's duality was consuming, a blend of professional obsession and personal intrigue. Each piece of evidence, a conversation overheard but not understood, a misplaced document, a pattern of behavior, both frustrated and fascinated him. He knew fear-bred errors, and though Orkhon had yet to falter, Sovel intended to exploit any slip, however minor, that could confirm his suspicions. The city below was a living entity, and secrecy, Sovel believed, was its marrow. Meanwhile, Orkhon moved through the day cloaked in awareness of the tightening noose. Recent nights yielded new fragments of truth, each step forward in understanding the relics bolstering the framework of rebellion, but also increasing the stakes. Sovel was too skilled an adversary for complacency. The unease was palpable as Orkhon navigated familiar streets, each glance a potential acknowledgement of the shadows that seemed increasingly omnipresent. He felt Sovel's presence in every familiar face, every corner turned with cautious resolve. Carrying out his duties as an officer of the Eternal Flame required precision. Not once could he let facades slip to reveal the intentions lying beneath. Even Altai, the fire to his resolve, became part of the careful choreography necessary to keep the Empire's eyes at bay. Late in the afternoon, Sovel summoned Orkhon for a routine debriefing, the pretense a thinly veiled exercise in scrutiny. The office was a bastion of orderliness, filled with symbols of power and authority that were as oppressive as they were intended to inspire. Sovel's presence was like a storm gathering, his gaze fixed on Orkhon with an intensity that sought to uncover veiled truths. The air between them crackled with subtext. Beneath Sovel's exterior lay questions unformed yet pressing. Orkhon, Sovel greeted, his voice smooth with well-practiced register. Your recent reports have been thorough, though there remains a tinge of enigmatic quality about them. Acknowledging Sovel's implied compliment masked with suspicion, Orkhon maintained a calm exterior. I strive to meet the expectations laid forth by the Empire, he replied, a practiced response mingling fealty and guarded ambiguity. Sovel leaned forward, subtly altering the charge within the room. Loyalty to the Empire is both a privilege and a commitment, as you understand, he observed, his eyes searching for any slip that might confirm his doubts. Orkhon nodded, centering himself in the knowledge shared with Altai, acknowledging the ongoing game, movements that required both candor and clandestine acumen. It guides my every action, Sovel. Yet Sovel suspected more, his instincts honed by years of unrelenting pursuit curbing his inclination for overt assumptions. The task was precarious, but time was ally. Eventually, all would be revealed. The question was whether it would be through Orkhon's hand or compelled by Sovel's calculated orchestration. With a final exchange of pleasantries, the meeting concluded, yet the specter of the encounter lingered like a cold draft down Orkhon's spine. As he left, Sovel's gaze trailed him, a reminder that their dance was far from over. Out into the city, Orkhon moved with renewed vigilance. Each step forward, each engagement with the resistance required the utmost care. He was at a precipice, the narrative of shadow and light threatening to converge in unforeseen ways. As night dipped its ink across the cityscape, joining traces of fate and history's breath, Orkhon returned once more to Altai. Their sanctuary was a bastion against the looming threat, filled with whispers of strategy and silent promises bound not only by risk, but by the unstoppable march toward liberation. Here in their shared bastion, they prepared to illuminate paths anew, while Sovel remained an ominous specter, a harbinger of trials, forcing windows in darkness, offering tempered reflections of defiance and unfaltering resolve. As the shadows lengthened, encompassing the city in muted depths and burgeoning resolve, Orkhon and Altai stood poised, ready to embrace the task before them. An odyssey sculpted by destiny, cast between legend and reality, entwined like the duality they embodied, prepared to reforge not just history, but themselves. Chapter 21. The Heist for Truth. The air was heavy with anticipation as Orkhon made his way through the bustling nightscape of the metropolis, the hushed whispers of hidden truths a constant echo in his mind. His pulse matched the cadence of his footsteps, a steady rhythm of resolve and caution commingling in a tense symphony. The city lights flickered like stars caught in the urban sprawl, casting long shadows that mirrored the secrets Orkhon carried within. Tonight marked a critical juncture for Orkhon and the resistance. With the knowledge gleaned from the encrypted relics, they had pieced together a strategy, a daring heist to uncover the final piece needed to decipher the Empire's concealed truths. It was a plan laced with risk and promise, a gamble that could tip the scales in their favor or plunge them into irretrievable chaos. Orkhon reached the clandestine meeting point, a nondescript warehouse nestled within the city's industrial district. Its facade, unassuming and forgotten, betrayed nothing of the machinations simmering behind its walls. As he slipped inside, the air buzzed with the charged energy of urgency. The interior was dimly lit, carefully arranged to avoid unwanted notice. Resistance members gathered in tight clusters, reviewing plans etched upon blueprints and digital displays. Maps adorned the walls, each marked with intricate pathways and contingency routes, a mosaic of tactics designed to evade the Empire's all-seeing eyes. Ulana, the formidable leader of their cause, stood at the heart of the operation. Her presence was commanding, a beacon amidst the swirling uncertainties they faced. To Orkhon, she represented the backbone of their mission, a guiding force whose vision aligned with the echoes of change he sought to realize. "We have one opportunity," Ulana addressed the assembly, her voice imbued with equal parts gravity and inspiration. "The Empire entrenches itself in shadows, but tonight we reclaim our narrative. The hidden archive within the Ministry of Legacy holds the keys to unlocking the past they've hidden from us." Orkhon and Altai stepped forward, their roles more defined than ever. Altai's sharp intellect had become their compass, her insights into the relics unearthing paths only they dared to navigate. Together, they'd shaped an operation reliant on precision, each step a choreography of rebellion. "Timing is everything," Altai began, her gaze meeting Orkhon's with determined resolve. "Once inside, we'll be tasked with securing documentation the Ministry guards fiercely. These documents will match the relics we've deciphered, artifacts of truth buried in the Empire's aggressively curated history." Their plan relied on stealth and discretion, avoiding confrontation wherever possible. Yet they all knew, should the heist be compromised, the price could be severe. Sovel Durin's scrutiny hung over them, an omnipresent shadow poised to snatch victory from their hands. Ulana glanced around at each resistance member, her countenance inspiring a collective commitment. "We move in coordinated teams. Initiate the entry precisely at midnight, when the city's pulse slows, and the Empire's eyes momentarily relax." The group dispersed with singular focus, each person moving to their appointed positions. Orkhon and Altai prepared themselves, donning nondescript attire and securing the tools necessary for their mission. Through silence, they exchanged a moment of understanding, a connection that surpassed words, binding them to the purpose they shared. As the clock ticked towards midnight, Orkhon reviewed the entry strategy in his mind, each detail burning bright with importance. He knew every corner, every shadow the Ministry nestled amidst, what lay within each corridor carved out by mortal hands, but never touched by mortal shadows. This, he resolved, was where they would sow the seeds of future revelations on today's barren truths. Midnight struck, the city's heartbeat slowing to an imperceptible rhythm as the operation commenced. In the cover of night, the teams infiltrated the ministry compound, moving with the assurance of ghosts threading through crevices where light dared not wander. Orkhon and Altai led their group with precision owned by necessity, shifting through passages marked only in their hearts. The tension heightened as they approached their destination, the archive room, protected by advanced security measures, a silent sentinel of Empire-sanctioned narratives. With Altai's guidance, they circumvented the barriers, their fingers dancing across coding sequences until access was granted. Inside, they discovered rows upon rows of documents, their contents shrouded in hushed obscurities. Orkhon's adrenaline surged as they painstakingly extracted the pertinent files, cross-referencing them with Altai's recent breakthroughs. Time was of the essence. Each second spent in these halls was a second. Sovel's intricate ties might untangle, a cat-and-mouse game against the very nature lent from time's essence. Yet, amidst the palpable tension, Orkhon felt certainty, a conviction born not just of duty, but from an inner compass loyal to truths forgotten. With the documents secured, they retraced their steps, executing the withdrawal with the same meticulous care. As they slipped back into the night, a sense of triumph struggled against the foreboding alight within. Returning to the warehouse, the atmosphere crackled with unspoken hope. In each shadow's breath, the promise of a narrative freed sang. The heist was a testament, a culmination of strategy, courage, and the relentless pursuit of light piercing the Empire's shrouded dawn. Amidst whispered victories, Orkhon stood shoulder to shoulder with Altai. Each pulse beats carried the weight of what they'd set in motion. Their hearts, emboldened by what lay ahead, synchronized to a shared harmony forged from the starlit canvas beyond humanity rewritten dominions. Thus, through revelations claimed beneath the moon's watchful gaze, they poised to reshape the contours of an entire lineage, their legacy rewritten, awaiting the chorus of whispers to echo anew from a world reborn from history's compelling ashes. Chapter 22. Whispers of a Lost Childhood. Orkhon awoke the next morning with the tendrils of a vivid dream clinging to his consciousness. Though the clarity of now was setting in, the emotions from his sleep lingered still, a ghostly reminder of the lessons his mentor had once imparted so many years ago in his carefree childhood days, a time that felt like a distant echo. The world outside their apartment buzzed on, wrapped tightly in its ongoing narrative, full of whispered conspiracies and undelivered promises. But inside, the ticking of his consciousness enveloped Orkhon in a world undiscovered by others, a corner of the psyche reserved for recollections buried deep. With the first light of dawn creeping through the curtains, Orkhon let himself sink into the resonance of memories half forgotten, half remembered. Guided by the voice of a mentor he long revered more than idolized, a man who, with each patient word, had knitted in Orkhon a mind sharp with critical thought and resonant with a constantly questioning heart. Within these newfound trails of thought, Orkhon saw himself as a young child, the familiarity of home, marbled with shadows of time, unhindered by the indomitable weight that adult duty foisted upon the shoulder. This was a place of learning, where books spoke louder than spoken word, and where wisdom, angular and sometimes abstract, rang out over the smoke-filled quarters, preserved by both pride and respect. Orkhon, the older man would say, his voice a beacon weaving through the slatted beams of memory. There lies power in understanding where truth hides, even if it does not offer its face immediately. It was a lesson framed well by the passing ages, one that stoked the fires of Orkhon's own clandestine path, a journey ringed with potential, though fueled by risk, immaculately woven into his own clandestine ambitions. The archetypal wisdom of his mentor echoed softly, wisdom whispered beneath the vastness of a Mongolian night sky as he would point to constellations, telling stories of unity and division among the stars above in circles inherited from ancestors. A mirrored narrative to the ambitions Orkhon now sought to unravel within Sovel Duran's empire, narratives stripped back to their bare essences from amidst legend and reality. The essence of loyalty was not dictated by command, but kindled by conviction, a timeless instruction that etched itself as Orkhon grew into the Empire's trusted officer, yet never severed the bindings to weave narratives forward. In places far removed from where faint echoes gathered beneath the resonance of resurgence. In this reverie, the faces of those long gone emerged with a haunting clarity, disintegrated yet real. Guardians of past pacts and unyielded ascent, woven like threads of intricate patterns, understood only by those who dared delve into their veiled promises. His thoughts danced back from his reminiscence, aligning once more to the demands of the dawn breaking above, their course well-defined. The days unfolding before him, sanguine with the tasks ahead, unveiled by Sovel's growing challenge, bolstered by the teachings ingrained into his very soul. He felt suddenly but profoundly grateful for Altai's presence, solid beside him. In her lay the union of those childhood lessons resurrected through resolute partnership. Her insight mirrored his own tales, carved beneath sacred eaves and filigreed by the whispers of truth. Together, they seeded a future undefined by present constraints, tenets spread beyond hearth due to a seed first planted by compassion and wind. Together, they encompassed futures once told in spirit and fire, the narrative threading the celestial dome itself, unfurling and retold through each clandestine sojourn, knot after knot, resisting the eternal shadow laid under the Empire's veiling cloth. Now infused with recollections of age and of mentors both ghostly and golden, Orkhon rose, aware of a deeper truth, bolstered in resolve. Though he carried with him burdens and dreams birthed upon secret tides, he carried, too, an unwavering glimmer, a path to liberation and honesty, a lifeline to futures beckoned but not fully formed. Moving toward the window, where dawn's light illuminated the city with promise and maybe a whisper, he knew each carefully crafted move brought them one step closer to truth that aligned with stars bound in ancient dreams, and that truth would be not only an anchor, but the wind beneath their wings. Each step taken, each action considered across this tightrope of shadow and flame erected by childhood's echo would resonate, invoking memories untamed in honor of those past, yet entwining into the prescript of a future unforeseen but forever hopeful, where silence would fall to sound while they danced over quiet horizons of unending expansion. Chapter 23. Unmasking the Betrayer. The night hung heavy over the city, casting a veil of obscurity that seemed to seep into the very stones of the metropolis. Yet within this cloak of darkness, the Resistance's efforts pulsated with an urgency that refused to be subdued. Orkhon, freshly embedded within the intricacies of their mission and the weight of his own childhood's echoes, felt a disquiet he could not entirely place. He was unnervingly aware of the delicate balance their plans hinged upon, the encrypted relics, Altai's brilliant deductions, the strategic heist, all fragile components in the intricate latticework of rebellion. It was a spine-tingling game of shadows, where every move had to be calculated and every ally accounted for. In the dimly lit confines of their hidden warehouse, the atmosphere was charged with expectation and tension. The recent heist had provided invaluable documents, the pieces beginning to fit into a clearer picture, yet the presence of Sovel Durin's watchful eyes was a constant, tightening garrote around their necks. Amidst this backdrop of strain, Orkhon felt a simmering unease, a subtle change, as elusive as the lateness of a celestial body shadowed by another, tugged at his instincts. It was a sensation akin to stepping into a room only to find that a familiar but unplaceable shadow had shifted out of sync. As the resistance leaders convened, whispering strategies and recalibrating their approach, Altai remained at Orkhon's side, her analytical mind working tirelessly to dissect the acquired flash of insight. She was methodical, her presence enveloping, unmatched, a stabilizing force amidst the chaos swirling around them. Ulana, aware of the need to spur momentum within their ranks, addressed the gathered resistance members, her voice a catalyst for burgeoning certainty. "We hold the Empire's stories in our hands," Ulana spoke with deliberate clarity, the room responding to her authority as if it were a kindling flame. "The time to act is now. Let truth be our most unyielding companion." But her words were followed by an undercurrent, a ripple that twisted Orkhon's anxiety into tangible alarm. An unusual glance exchanged between two members caught Orkhon's eye as he scanned the assembly, his senses heightened by the whiff of a derailed signal. At first, it seemed a figment of his imagination, a parallax drawn from weeks of subterranean existence. Yet as the meeting wore on, traitorous nuances persisted. A twitch, averted eye contact, voices weighed beneath invisible suspicion. Orkhon's heart raced with trepidation and realization. Among them, unbidden, was a misaligned element, a piece of their trust defiled. The signs converged in a rapidly forming knot of comprehension. Betrayal had found its way into their midst. The behavior of a particular member, Cyan, a man traditionally reserved, now stood distinctly guilty in its divergence. His contributions to the dialogue were stilted, his averting gaze picked at Orkhon's intuitiveness until he could no longer ignore it. At a subtle nod from Orkhon, Altai took over the conversation, allowing him to slip into the periphery, orchestrating a subtle exit without drawing undue attention. The motion, though benign on the surface, carried the weight of sovereign decision. Stepping outside, he summoned Cyan silently, leapt, gesturing with a tilting finger to a shadowed alcove away from the prying eyes of either friend or foe. The quiet lowered like a gossamer shroud, an unexpected overlay between them. Orkhon's demeanor was calculated, yet his eyes were storms unchained. "Cyan," he began, the challenge in his voice an unspoken command for honesty, "you've been distant tonight, cut adrift. This is unlike you. I need to know why." Cyan's response was fractional, an involuntary flinch, the crack of fragility in his resolve. Beneath the facade lay a truth as potent as it was perilous, bound to the amalgam of reluctance and panic. "I never meant for it to go this far," Cyan confessed, the words clipped and ridden with the weight of a guilty man's burden. "They threatened my family. Soval knew. He knew everything." The revelation struck Orkhon with the force of an unexpected blow, each implication a gust unraveling carefully laid threads. Within Cyan's broken admission was a kernel of lethal intelligence, Soval's footprint in their haven, a nemesis who'd laid bare their whispered defenses. The betrayal, though involuntary, was disastrous. Yet buried beneath Orkhon's initial fury and betrayal lay an unexpected clarity, knowledge. The loss unveiled an opportunity, a reshaping edge to fold against Soval's insidious wiles. "We must act," Orkhon breathed, containing the raging storm within to clear wisdom. "Cyan, your compliance now is our only chance. Your silence must linger, echo. We'll need Soval to believe that he's night's silent predator, when in reality, we shall be the dawn." Cyan's agreement came in a solemn, weighted nod. The path forward was treacherous, but in Orkhon's sphere of influence lay both unity and a profound laurel of history's shadow. Returning with newfound resolve, Orkhon reconvened with Altai, whose questioning gaze conveyed more than words could. Together, their expressions ensured fluid reassurances that, though external trust had faltered, internal resolve would not. "The predator," Orkhon mused within their shared solitude, his thoughts as earthborn as eternal sun, always underestimates the tenacity of the hunted. As they assimilated this latest setback into their overarching design, Orkhon and Altai prevailed with a shared certainty. Even in betrayal, an unbound truth could dawn anew, encircling both past and progeny, safeguarding a tomorrow despite the hurt and havoc shadowy today might bring. And among the receding night, as notions settled into plans sworn silent at the edge of weary battle, Orkhon prepared. Soval's relentless pursuit would soon encounter the unwitting lifeblood seeping through the betrayal's guarded entrance, a flaw, a venue where darkness had no place upon illuminated script. Chapter 24. Shadows of Revelry. The metropolis lay sprawled under a canopy of evening lights, twinkling like an upturned constellation against the deepening dusk. The city's imposing skyline seemed to pulse with a life of its own, an electrifying current crackling just beneath its surface as citizens moved through their nightly routines, oblivious to the intricate dance of alliances and rivalries playing out within its bounds. Tonight, however, would see a gathering of a different sort, a prestigious celebration hosted by none other than Soval Durin. Ostensibly an event to honor various luminaries of the eternal flame, it was, in reality, another move on Soval's intricate chessboard, one that included a carefully orchestrated invitation extended to Orkhon. For Orkhon, it was both a challenge and an opportunity, offered beneath the guise of camaraderie, but laden with a deeper intent. Attending this event meant walking through the lion's den, a test of trust orchestrated by Soval, yet one that allowed Orkhon to peer deeper into the empire's intricate undercurrents without apparent suspicion. Dressed in the ceremonial attire that marked his rank within the empire, Orkhon stepped through the grand, arching entrance of Soval's stately residence. A faint murmur of expectation hovered around him, the mingling of those present, lending the occasion both an air of gravitas and layers of unspoken tension. Soval's property was a testimony to opulence tastefully grounded in tradition, a blend where luxury served as both expression and camouflage. Intricate tapestries adorned the walls, weaving tales of conquest and valor under the Khan's eternal influence, while the rooms buzzed with the gilded hum of conversation and subtle machinations. Orkhon navigated the space with practiced ease, masking his intent with cordial smiles and perfectly modulated exchanges. Each handshake, every delicate witticism crafted for nonchalance, veiled a careful observation of the crowded room and its occupants. Here, the empire's power players mingled, the convergence of policymakers and strategists spinning veiled narratives beneath the surface of polite discourse. Eyes flickered in acknowledgement as Orkhon moved through their midst, each glance resonant with the subtle knowledge of mutual involvement in their storied institution, a tangled web spun from necessity and artifice. Soval appeared amidst the gathering, an enigmatic presence that seemed to draw gravity and scrutiny alike. His demeanor was effortlessly commanding, his movements calculated to project authority without excess, a puppeteer among marionettes concealed under finery, yet performing a familiar scene. Orkhon, Soval greeted him with a nod, his voice smooth, suffused with the warmth of cultivated camaraderie. Soval, Orkhon replied, managing a moderate bow that retained both decorum and individual agency. The harmony of such formality was intricately orchestrated, a reminder that despite the grandiosity, the performance remained grounded in intentions not yet fully explicit. Soval gestured to a quieter alcove within the vast reception room, subtly invoking the pretense of private conversation cloaked amidst societal expectation. With a gentle acquiescence, Orkhon followed, aware of the significance embedded within this shift. The alcove was ornate yet intimate, its decor rich with historical symbolism that defied the passage of centuries. As Soval settled into this space, his eyes held an open invitation, albeit layered with unvoiced musings. "It is rare," Soval began, "to host an assemblage such as this, crafted from a desire to celebrate commitment where empire entwines with personal devotion." "There is much to celebrate," Orkhon responded lightly, casting his words as a line between sincerity and scrutiny. "Our legacy forms a tapestry not easily unraveled." Soval's half-smile was a testimony to calculated understanding, acknowledging the subtle duel their conversation became. "And how do you find yourself within its weave?" Soval asked, his gaze steady and penetrating. Orkhon met Soval's eyes, grounding himself in the quiet knowledge shared with Altai. The dance they performed was delicate, but one woven with a purpose only known to those daring to reshape narratives within its shadows. "A common thread is stronger for the challenges it has woven," Orkhon replied, each word a testament to his own convictions, intertwined with layer upon layer of loyal inference, yet grounded in dissent. Their exchange hovered within the balance of truth and artifice, much like the city surrounding them, a battleground of loyalties and defiance. Soval's face was inscrutable, yet Orkhon discerned the subtle shift in the room's current, an orchestration crafted by unyielding pursuit. Before the conversation could deepen further, they were drawn back into the gathering's comforting din, leaving behind an implicit understanding suspended between them, a weighted promise of engagements to come. As Orkhon mingled anew, listening and learning, each voice was a note lifted from the empire's underlying melody, an aria sung from unwritten volumes, yet reverberating with history's resonance. The celebration proceeded, a tapestry of whispers and silent subtexts, as Orkhon navigated subtly, gleaning fragments of insight that might aid the resistance. Each new thread, each connection, was a step towards unraveling the empire's intricacies, a clandestine ballet against the broader symphony Soval had orchestrated. And through this grand spectacle, bathed in both shadow and light, Orkhon's resolve remained unfaltered. Here within Soval's domain, amidst revelations cloaked in grandeur, he continued charting the path toward a future beckoning beyond the empire's imposing narrative. For he was certain that somewhere within these encounters lay a key, a turn of fate undreamed in tales yet to be crafted. As the evening wore on, drawing closer to its conclusion, Orkhon felt the triumphant echo of possibility. A single glance exchanged with Soval as he departed carried with it the unspoken challenge of every move still to come. The game not yet won, shadow yet unvanquished, as the curtain lowered on this act amid the grandeur of the world's eternal stage. Chapter 25. Chapter 25. Alone Under the Moon. The world outside was awash with moonlight, casting a silvery hue over the city that Orkhon knew too well. Yet amidst this expansive metropolis, Altai was embarking on a mission of her own under the solitary gaze of the night sky, a journey that underscored the pivotal role she played both in Orkhon's life and the resistance they nurtured. Where they often worked as a seamlessly intertwined unit, tonight saw Altai venturing into the heart of the Empire's web alone. The task demanded it, the nature of her target better suited to her nuanced approach. With her intellectual prowess and strategic wit, she was the ideal force to retrieve vital intelligence concerning the Empire's plans, knowledge that could potentially safeguard or shatter their cause. As the moon rose higher, Altai moved with quiet confidence through the dimly lit streets, each step a testament to the blend of resolve and cautious grace within her. The city hummed with a life that seemed distant and unconcerned with her mission, a dance of shadows over stone, bespoke in the language of the night. Her destination was a secure facility disguised within the mundane exterior of a government administrative building, a place she had memorized through plans painstakingly compiled over countless clandestine meetings. Months of preparation and Altai's acute attention to detail had culminated in this solitary venture, a strike at the heart of the Empire's clandestine machinations. Navigating through silent corridors, Altai expertly bypassed security systems designed to thwart intruders, but susceptible to those blessed with intimate knowledge of their weak points. Each locked door, each coded entry, seemed to yield before her as if acknowledging the inevitability of her purpose. Once inside the central chamber, Altai was faced with rows of locked cabinets, repositories of secrets the Empire held dear and resolutely guarded. She worked methodically, her hands practiced in the confident artistry of retrieval, extracting folders dense with information while maintaining the faintest whisper of sound. Within these files lay documentation of recent directives and strategic movements, insights into the inner workings of the Eternal Flame's plans. If decoded correctly, this intelligence could provide critical advantage to the resistance, allowing them to pivot away from potential threats, fortify their strongholds, and navigate the narrowing path that Soval constructed. Suddenly, the faint sound of footsteps echoed through the hallway, and although Altai remained cloaked within shadows, the weight of urgency surged within her. Realizing her time was limited, she quickly transferred the most crucial documents to a discreet satchel, ensuring her presence remained undetected in the security logs. Her heart raced as she retraced her steps, maintaining the careful balance of stealth and grace. Each heartbeat was a testament to the skill and bravery that made her indispensable, not just to the resistance, but to Orkhon, who counted on her ability to maneuver through such perilous improvisations. The cold air greeted her as Altai emerged from the confines of the building, her profile melding seamlessly into the night. The documents, nestled safely against her side, felt significantly heavier than their physical weight justified, resonating with the potential strategies they could unlock. With seamless assurance, she slipped into the embrace of the city streets, her invisibility a shield against the night's inquisitive shadows. The pulse of the city seemed to steady in the aftermath of her escape, a nod to the balance restored with her return to the anonymity of the civilian guise. Orkhon awaited her at their sanctuary, his thoughts consumed by concern and anticipation, knowing well the immense risk she had faced alone. Her return was a balm on the frayed edges of his anxiety, a merger of relief only influenced more by the triumph etched across her face. Back at their hidden haven, they shared a wordless celebration, Altai's success painting a path forward through Soval's tightening net. As she laid out the gathered intelligence for Orkhon, they both felt the irrevocable click of possibility, a promise hidden within lines of text, poised to redefine both their futures. Though the shadows of the eternal Khan still lingered, unyielding and omnipresent, tonight marked a step towards the light. It was testament to their bond, a delicate fabric woven anew with victory, trust, and love. As the first blush of dawn illuminated their world, Altai and Orkhon stood together, two parts of a whole, shadowed by legacy, yet ignited by resilience, at the forefront of a rebellion humming with the promise of liberation, waiting just beyond the horizon's edge. Chapter 26. Chapter 26. Small Victories, Glowing Hope. The first light of dawn painted the horizon with hues of gold and pink, casting a warm glow over the city as it stirred from slumber. Street vendors began setting up their stalls, while the ever-watchful eyes of the empire readied themselves for another day of vigilance. But beneath the everyday hustle and bustle, a quieter victory pulsed through the heart of the resistance, a small yet significant triumph orchestrated by Orkhon and Altai. In their modest sanctuary, Orkhon and Altai pored over the documents that Altai had procured on her solo mission. The day's light illuminated the scattered pages across their table, each one brimming with secrets unearthed from the Empire's guarded vaults. The stolen intelligence provided glimpses into Soval Duran's strategies, outlining maneuvers aimed at quelling dissent and maintaining the Empire's iron grip. Amid these papers, there were also memos that hinted at vulnerabilities within the Empire's vast network, a precarious dance of power struggles rippling beneath the surface of Soval's well-ordered facade. These memos told tales of infighting and disagreements among different factions of the Empire, detailing a narrative not of a monolith, but an intricate machine, its parts made of individuals with their own ambitions and fears. Altai looked up from the documents, her eyes alight with the thrill of discovery. "This," she said, gesturing to a particular page that outlined an upcoming council meeting, "could be our opportunity to strike. If we leverage these divisions, sowing discord at the right moment, it might just be the spark needed." Her words carried the weight of potential, a promise that resounded deeper than strategy, extending into the realm of possibility. Orkhon nodded, sharing her vision, imagining the sequence of events that might unfold from a single strategically placed nudge. The Empire's strength lies in its perception of unity, its facade of unbroken lineage, Orkhon mused, his voice steady with newfound determination. By introducing doubt, we have a chance to fracture its veneer. Their small victory, reflected in these delicate pages, fed the relentless spirit of the resistance. Every revelation held the potential to change the game, each tactical advantage a stepping stone towards the larger battle for freedom. Throughout the morning, Altai and Orkhon meticulously pieced together a plan as delicate and intricate as the Empire's own web of control. They would prepare a covert team to infiltrate upcoming meetings, capitalizing on the knowledge Altai had secured, their goal to carefully insert misinformation. Subtlest truths tailored like whispers amidst the Empire's own rhetoric. The hours ticked by, the sun tracing a path across the sky as they refined their strategy, their sanctuary transforming into a cathedral of hope. Each detail was constructed with precision, a testament to their unyielding dedication. Finally, as the day neared its close, both Orkhon and Altai took a step back from the table, surveying the work that had flowed seamlessly from their minds into a unified tapestry of resistance. The light was fading, but alive in their hearts, a resolute glimmer persisted, a shared vision of a future liberated from dictatorship's shroud. In the peaceful interlude that followed, as dusk surrendered the world to the embrace of night, Orkhon felt the strain of their fight lessen, even if only for a moment. The understanding they had forged, born in battle and bound by love, was a beacon beyond the shadows invoked by Soval's relentless pursuit. Altai joined him at the window, her presence a warm constant against the creeping chill of evening. Together, they gazed out over the city, their city, with all its virtues and flaws illuminated under the stars. The skyline was a silhouette, a trove of untold stories caught between the towers, none so compelling as the one they crafted in the quiet fortitude of their entwined narrative. "We're getting closer," Altai whispered, her voice a promise shared in solitude, but meant for the world. Orkhon nodded, his eyes tracing the constellations above, finding solace in the thought that each star, like every piece of knowledge they had gathered, was part of the greater illumination awaiting. "To freedom," he agreed, a toast voiced not in wine but in conviction, shared with the woman beside him who was more fire than shadow, sparking connection within, lighting dream a fire without. For in the interplay of hope and defiance, Orkhon and Altai had begun to weave possibility, a tapestry marked not by victory alone, but by the countless threads of courage bolstered by their small victories. As night took hold of the city, the two became statues of resilience against the Empire's eternal shadow, braced to pen a future not yet written, yet one they refused to abandon. The night deepened, but with it grew the anticipation of dawns to come, a perpetual reminder that though their struggle was far from done, each step forward was a victory in its own right, a bellwether of hope set against the unrelenting tide of oppressive memory. Chapter 27. Chapter 27. The Duel of Minds. The air inside Soval Durin's office was a study in contrasts, the opulence of empire juxtaposed against understated furnishings, all symbolizing the strength and restraint of its enigmatic occupant. As Soval awaited Orkhon's arrival, he reviewed reports detailing unexplained fluctuations in the areas under Orkhon's purview. His keen mind, ever the analytical blade, dissected each anomaly with interest that balanced on the knife edge of suspicion. It was into this complex atmosphere that Orkhon entered, his mind poised for the psychological duel awaiting him. The office told a story of power and precision, each piece carefully curated, much like the man who inhabited the room. Orkhon was acutely aware that this meeting was a test, a subtle probing of his intentions, relying heavily on Soval's skill for reading his opponents. "Orkhon," Soval greeted, gesturing towards a seat opposite him. "Thank you for joining me. I've heard much about your recent success within Section B. Your efforts ensure our empire runs smoothly." The compliment, though articulated with genuine appreciation, was imbued with an undertone Orkhon couldn't ignore. He accepted the remark with a nod, settling into the chair with an air of calm confidence. "Thank you, Soval," Orkhon replied, allowing the hint of satisfaction to surface, bolstered by carefully constructed self-assurance. "It's a privilege serving the Empire. Every challenge reveals opportunities." Soval's eyes narrowed, a glint of intrigue hidden within. Indeed, opportunity is such a double-edged blade, sharp enough to carve paths, yet always willing to betray its wielder. The words hung heavy in the air, both men allowing the implications to settle between them like delicate cracks testing the room's decorum. It was Soval who continued, his demeanor shifting to one of casual inquiry. "I've been reviewing surveillance and noticed some irregular activities," Soval said, an eyebrow raised with calculated nonchalance. "I trust these are the growing pains of your initiatives?" Orkhon met his gaze head-on, carefully measuring his response. "Every venture worth undertaking may experience turbulence," he acknowledged, "but our allegiance ensures resilience." Soval pursed his lips slightly, the tempo of the conversation adhering to a rhythm that tested the boundaries of loyalty. Each sentence was a parry, a feint. They circled rhetorically, probing for tells, for hidden misgivings. Orkhon knew this dance well. It was a familiar territory where truths were veiled in pleasantries. His solace was the knowledge that his augmented understanding of the Empire, parsed thanks to Altai's and his efforts, allowed him to maintain this delicate standoff. "And how do you view your role within the Empire's grand narrative?" Soval inquired, his voice slipping to a tone both suave and insistent. "My role," Orkhon carefully replied, "is to maintain the harmony and strength that has always defined our empire. Perhaps it is forward momentum that serves our shared objective." "Harmony can be the softest mask of chaos," Soval mused. His demeanor hardened subtly, like an ice sheath concealing lithe steel. "You've always struck me as someone more concerned with the subtleties beneath the surface." Orkhon leaned forward, carefully choosing each word to tread the line of reticence and honesty. "There is value in understanding the undercurrents, Soval. They provide channels of strength, the very elements that can fortify our foundation." "Fortification, indeed," Soval mused, his gaze equally calculating and appreciative. "The duality of nature itself." A silence followed, its expanse filled with shrewd contemplation, a bridge where both sought to discern what lay beneath the other's intentions. Soval was a master of reading meanings between lines, the irony not lost on Orkhon that his adversary's talents bore eclipsed admiration. "And yet," Soval continued, leaning back into his chair, a figure marinated in contorted grace. "You understand the value of vigilance. The Empire's eyes, Orkhon, see much." Orkhon offered a humble nod, understanding the inherent warning shrouded by Sovel's statement. Sovel's scrutiny loomed larger, a testament to the risks intrinsic to Orkhon's dual existence. "There are times," Orkhon responded, "where the shadows offer avenues greater than those granted by light." The tension between them softened, replaced by a mutual and private game of respect, a testament that acknowledged shared insights even amidst duplicity. Each remained steadfast in his role, Sovel, the consummate strategist, Orkhon, the adept confidant hiding in plain sight. As their meeting drew to a close, with farewells underpinned by courteous formality, Orkhon felt the intensity of Sovel's gaze, a reminder that trust was but the first act in the greater play they perpetuated. Exiting the office into the world beyond, Orkhon inhaled deeply, his mind briskly refurbished with fresh purpose. Within this complex duel of words, both he and Sovel had emerged entranced, seeking a narrative beyond Empire's firmament. Though their exchange retained formality's veneer, beneath the surface, Orkhon's convictions roared, a new equilibrium crafted from the artful calculus of deception. He knew that every calculated risk, every turn through shadowy arcs, lent clarity to the path ascending through Sovel's shadows toward a new dawn. And thus, retreating to the city streets, shadow and flame entwined, Orkhon's resolve stood resolute against the relentless churn of fate, a beacon of a narrative unending, undeciphered, yet compellingly filled with hope. Chapter 28, A Clandestine Rendezvous. Night had spread its vast, star-flecked canvas over the city by the time Orkhon stepped out onto the bustling streets once more. The metropolis, alive with vibrancy, embraced its nocturnal rhythm, casting shadows that concealed intention and ambition alike. It was within these folds of obscurity that Orkhon now sought sanctuary, a clandestine rendezvous arranged with an ally whose presence was as valuable as it was dangerous. This ally, a representative from a foreign power whose interests aligned, albeit temporarily, with the resistance, was a carefully guarded secret. The promise of new insights and resources hung tantalizingly in the air, a rare boon in their struggle against the Empire's might. Orkhon navigated through alleys that wound like serpents between towering buildings. The path was rehearsed to perfection, turning corners at intersections where structures loomed like silent sentinels. With each step, his mind replayed the duel of words with Sovel, every glance and veiled threat catalogued for future reflection and strategy. His destination was a nondescript tea house, nestled within the city's quieter quarter, an unassuming location selected precisely for its innocuity. Inside, the low hum of conversation formed a rhythmic backdrop as patrons exchanged trivialities over steaming cups, unaware of the clandestine meeting unfolding within their midst. Orkhon spotted the ally immediately, a figure seated at a shadowed corner table, posture relaxed, yet vigilant. The individual was dressed in a manner inconspicuous enough not to draw attention, yet spoke of foreign perspectives, a subtle reminder of the delicate dance they both engaged in. As Orkhon approached, the ally, known as Amara, acknowledged him with a slight nod, an unspoken signal that the meeting could commence. Orkhon took his seat across from her, the low glow from lanterns casting flickers of light that danced across their expressions, two players in a game played on an unseen board. "Orkhon," Amara began warmly, her voice a soft blend of accents, each syllable calculated for discretion. "It's good to finally meet in person. We've much to discuss." He returned a smile, the expression tempered by the awareness of their shared stakes. "Indeed, Amara, the significance of our partnership cannot be overstated." They both understood the fragile balance between mutual interest and the weight of potential betrayal, a trust embraced, albeit lightly, entangled with the promise of intelligence and strategy that only international allies could afford. "Your progress has been most impressive," Amara continued, her gaze sharp yet affable. "The Resistance's recent actions have not gone unnoticed. However, the Empire's response could escalate beyond anticipation." Orkhon nodded, acknowledging the risk inherent in their bold endeavors. "Sovel's reach is expansive, but there are cracks we've begun to explore. The intelligence we've gathered is only as valuable as its application." Amara leaned closer, her voice lowering to a deliberate whisper. and it is our hope to broaden those cracks into opportunities. Our people, though distant, are not unaffected by the Empire's shadow. We share a common interest in seeing it weakened. As the conversation deepened, they exchanged insights and strategies that entwined like the strands of a woven tapestry. Amara's information detailed logistical vulnerabilities and rifts within the Empire, the kinds of fractures Orkhon knew could be leveraged to sow discord from within, destabilizing the Empire's cohesion. In return, Amara concluded, there are certain pieces of information we require. Further context regarding the Empire's technological advances and any new alliances they seek. Orkhon understood the implications instantly. The intricate barter of intelligence between them was a dance requiring finesse and trust, a delicate balance of give and take, knowing that each concession brought them closer to undermining the Empire's foundation. "Consider it done," Orkhon replied with conviction, sealing the arrangement with a nod that spoke volumes of shared aspirations. "We'll send you the requested details via our established channels." Their meeting concluded, punctuated by a subtle exchange that reaffirmed their tentative alliance. As Amara rose to leave, she paused, her expression softening with unexpected camaraderie. "The course of empires is ever shifting, Orkhon. Remember, in darkness, even the smallest light can guide the way." With a parting nod, Amara slipped into the night, leaving behind the quiet assurance of a new phase in their struggle. Orkhon lingered briefly at the table, his thoughts racing, heartened by the potential unlocked through their union. As he ventured back into the city's embrace, Orkhon felt a renewed sense of purpose ignited by the meeting, fueled by newfound resources and the whisper of change poised just beyond the horizon. Each stride carried him through a landscape teeming not just with risk, but with the incandescence of hope reborn. Thus, the city's nightscape extended before him, a theater of shadows and schemes, with lines drawn both hidden and overt against the ongoing tableau of empire. Orkhon traversed the fine line between ally and adversary, his resolve unwavering in the face of the path that lay ahead. For he knew that even in the throes of a gathering storm, each luminous moment, no matter how brief, could illuminate the way, the key to shaping a dawn yet to come. Chapter 29. Tensions within the flame. The flickering lights of the metropolis glittered below. The Eternal Flame headquarters, like a sea of stars, barely contained within the city's bounds. Inside its imposing structure, beyond the cascading shadows cast by towering architecture, gathered the Empire's council, a nexus of power and prestige where decisions shaped an entire world. Tonight's meeting simmered with a volatile energy, the atmosphere heavy with whispered agendas and veiled rivalries. Within these hallowed halls, tensions within the Empire bled into discussions, creating rifts that splintered the veneer of unity so carefully maintained. Orkhon, along with other officers of the Eternal Flame, took his seat in the expansive chamber. The room was a testament to the Empire's glory, adorned with tapestries chronicling victories won and legends crafted in Genghis Khan's name. It was within these walls that the pulse of authority was orchestrated, each member a conduit through which the Empire's will flowed. Soval Durin presided over the council from the head of the table, his presence a gravity well drawing every gaze, binding the members in a complex web of influence and subservience. His reputation as a master strategist was well earned, yet even Soval was not immune to the intangible currents of discontent rippling beneath the surface. The meeting commenced with an air of formality, standard reports and updates weaving the Empire's current narrative. However, beneath the polished discourse, Orkhon could sense the subtle undercurrents, a dance of ambition, suspicion, and the specter of dissent. It began subtly, the shift from placidity to friction. An exchange between two high-ranking officials on the allocation of resources became the spark. One, an elder statesman, argued for the continuation of traditional methods, extolling the virtues of proven systems. The other, a younger officer with eyes lit by change, advocated for new technologies and progressive strategies, the very innovations that birthed threats to their stability. Soval allowed the debate to unfold, his silence a tactical maneuver that perpetuated indecision while elucidating where each member's loyalties lay. For Orkhon, this was an opportunity, an insight into the fragmented council whose unity could be pried open through calculated stratagems. The older statesman's voice cut through the air with steep authority. It is our tradition, the essence of our empire, that has sustained us for centuries. Diverting from these pillars invites chaos and unpredictability. His words hung in the room, bearing the weight of histories not easily set aside. The younger officer countered, voice taut with the fervor of one who sees possibility as pulse and potential. We stand at the threshold of a new era. To cling solely to the past is to ignore the evolution of opposition. Adaptation is paramount. Around the table, other council members shifted, their gazes betraying private thoughts. Orkhon watched intently, skillfully masking his own contemplation. Here was the seed of potential destabilization, where the future of the empire could be redirected, an opening to exploit in the resistance's favor. Amidst the growing tension, Soval finally spoke, his voice velvet over iron. We serve a legacy cultivated over centuries. However, every legacy must evolve to remain formidable. Debate, while essential, should never fracture our core. His intervention served as a salve, but Orkhon detected the imperceptible hesitations among some members, a token of burgeoning divergence that could be nurtured. The session continued, but the cracks had been exposed, and Orkhon's mind raced with the possibilities. As the council meeting drew to a close, Soval dismissed them with customary decorum, yet beneath the politeness lay a reminder that every alliance existed under his scrutiny. Orkhon collected his thoughts, knowing full well that amidst Soval's cinematic prowess lay the Emperor's hand. Leaving the grand chamber, Orkhon blended with the procession of officers, each a component of the Empire's great machine. Yet alone among them, he carried a secret, a plan to channel this internal discord into a design that favored the resistance. That evening, when Orkhon met with Altai in the sanctity of their shared sanctuary, he relayed what had transpired. Her perceptive gaze absorbed his account, taking in the fractures and crafting them into the narrative of their rebellion. The seeds have been sown, Orkhon concluded, his voice coalescing the night's revelations. We need only tend them with care. Altai nodded, her mind weaving strategies over the weft of opportunity. We stand at a precipice. Let us be vigilant, for distraction may offer us flight. Together, they mapped out their next steps, the shadows and lights of their haven, reflecting the broader battle poised to unfold. A silent war of ideals contested through subtleties and the sculpted art of intervention. Through the night, a harmonious duet of purpose bound Altai and Orkhon, each breath drawn in alignment with ambition and fortitude, expanded by the council's disquiet. Within the flickering game of power and control, they were architects, reimagining futures nestled between expectation and revelation. As dawn edged into the metropolis, the first rays burst upon their sanctuary, awakening yet another day in which Soval's challenges awaited. But Orkhon remained emboldened, vivified by fractured unities unveiled, a narrative just beneath the surface, biding its time, ready to remake the world with the conviction of their enduring promise, a sentinel awakening within the glare of possibility, unseen yet unbreached. Chapter 30. Chapter 30. A Corridor of Secrets. The city awoke under a blanket of gray, the sky's heavy clouds mirroring the somber mood within Orkhon. The meeting at the Eternal Flame headquarters had stirred dormant fears, as the Empire's inner turmoil revealed cracks ripe for exploitation, yet fraught with peril. Soval Durin's presence lingered like a specter, omnipresent and unsettling. Orkhon moved through the corridors of power with a calm exterior, his motions a practiced dance of secrecy and duty. Each crossing with fellow officers became a nod to an understanding, a mutual acknowledgement of unspoken tensions twisting through their allegiance. As morning unfolded into afternoon, Orkhon's mind remained tethered to the previous night's revelations. His thoughts, though grounded in the complexities of the present, frequently drifted into the tapestry of the past. It was a weave speckled with secrets that whispered in the quiet alcoves of his memory. This day, compelled by an instinct he could not define, Orkhon's path diverged from his initial route, guiding him toward a rarely frequented part of the complex, a corridor rumored to house forgotten archives and the shadows of bygone eras. Entering the dusty corridor, Orkhon felt the weight of history pressing in, each step an echo of the past. Pale light filtered through narrow windows, casting elongated shadows against the stone walls. The air was thick with neglect, the smell of old parchment and wood mingling with the peculiar scent of concealed time. Within this seldom trodden passage, Orkhon sensed the presence of untapped knowledge, secrets hidden not by necessity, but by the simplicity of being overlooked. He moved carefully, his footsteps muted against the old stone floors. The corridor whispered secrets, as if eager to divulge stories untold. At the corridor's far end lay a single, unassuming door. It bore none of the grandeur associated with official records, just a plain wooden facade that seemed to beckon Orkhon closer. Driven by a curiosity that had ignited within, he pushed the door open with slow deliberation. Inside, dust motes floated in lazy spirals, illuminated by the scant light falling through narrow slits of window. Shelves stood lined with manuscripts and tomes, items catalogued before the Empire's expansion, whispers of a time when the world was smaller and untamed. Orkhon's heart quickened as he approached, his fingers brushing across the spines of forgotten texts, each a potential guardian of history's veiled narratives. It was here, amid these ancient volumes, that Orkhon's burdened mind felt lifted, a silent acknowledgement of legacy matched with a present yearning for truth. Pulling forth a tome from the shelf, Orkhon began to carefully leaf through its pages. The text was dense, but there were notes hidden within, a handwritten testimony of secrets passed through generations only when deemed necessary. The inscriptions hinted at clandestine councils and unpronounced dealings, tying the Empire's early days to the present's clandestine aspirations. These fragmented narratives suggested yet unperceived alliances, stories that, if brought to light, could cement the resistance's cause by redefining the foundation of what had been long accepted as unwavering truth. Only then did the true potential of this hidden chamber strike Orkhon. The isolated, incontrovertible threads harbored here might shape a compelling tapestry to counteract the Empire's doctrine, a voice for those silenced through time's onward tread. Orkhon returned the tome to its niche, a sense of resolve growing within. By collecting these echoes of the past and understanding their implications, they could build something formidable, an artifact for the resistance that could withstand the scrutiny of the most fastidious historians, including Sauvel himself. Stepping back into the corridor, Orkhon felt the charged atmosphere of the passage embrace him once more. The corridor of secrets, a channel to invigorate his movements as he walked toward the complexities that lay ahead. As he exited the domain of historical dust and untapped verity, Orkhon knew that while the weight of his own history was immense, it held the promise of their shared future. A promise to reclaim not just power held hostage, but a narrative that belonged to those who dared to remember. The day was drawing to a close, and the city slowly returned to its rhythmic passage. Orkhon's pace quickened, fueled by both purpose and potential, as he prepared to share these findings with Altai, knowing that within these ancient stories lay the key to crafting a new chapter, one built on truths long buried, yet eternally resilient against the omnipotent shadow of the eternal Khan. In this dance between past and present, under the looming shadow of empire, Orkhon felt the lightness of promise. Each step forward was not just a rebellion, but a movement towards a dawn still hidden yet promised. Empowered by the secrets now realized anew from corridors once dark, inviting a light that could alter the Empire's horizon forever. Chapter 31. Chapter 31, Altai's Insight. The afternoon sun cast a warm, golden glow over the city, a stark contrast to the cold burden of secrets Orkhon carried within him. His mind raced with the discoveries made among the forgotten archives, ancient whispers captured in frail parchment, narrating tales untold. Each fragment was a link in a chain, promising to unite the past with present ambitions. But he knew these echoes required an interpreter more adept than he, someone whose acumen could transform raw narrative into strategy. And for that, Orkhon turned to Altai. Reuniting in their modest sanctuary, Orkhon shared these revelations with Altai. Every word, every forgotten alliance he recited found a fertile ground in her sharp intellect. The room, filled with the murmur of possibility, seemed to pulse with the presence of what they stood to achieve. The evening wore on, and the tension that had accompanied Orkhon began to dissipate in the face of Altai's methodical dissection. Her skill in weaving together seemingly disparate strands into a cogent whole was unparalleled, and Orkhon watched with admiration as she finessed through documents that were mere whispers of intent. "Remarkable," Altai breathed, laying the pages before her as if unveiling a tapestry. "These alliances you uncovered, they change everything. If we can establish them as factual, they undermine not just the Empire's narrative, but its foundational trust." Orkhon nodded, feeling the weight of her words as they echoed thoughts he hadn't fully formed. "It represents a shift," he replied, drawing her attention to the notes he had made. "Here, in these pages, lie the motives and counsels Soval's era has feared would resurface. These texts suggest compromise," Altai continued, tracing her finger over the lines. "A fear of rebellion, not strength, drove the Empire's past allegiance. If exploited correctly, this knowledge can fracture the facade of invincibility Soval has erected." Altai's brilliance often lay in her ability to see beyond what was written, to infer the narrative between the lines. It was a skill that had served them well, guiding the resistance with a precision that had kept them afloat amidst the tumultuous tides Soval cast their way. They worked side by side, binning the collected knowledge with practiced assurance. Altai's insight was the catalyst they needed, transforming raw evidence into a manifesto that could ignite their movement with clarity and resolve. As the room filled with the soft glow of lamplight, Altai laid down her pen, looking to Orkhon with eyes alight with determination. "It's time, Orkhon. We have the tools to craft a new narrative, one based not on the myths that Soval perpetuates, but on the forgotten truths now reclaimed." Their discussion carried through the night, the walls of their sanctuary standing witness to their orchestrated symphony of hope and strategy. The text Altai had assembled was no longer just a jumble of secrets. It was an unassailable compass, steering the resistance towards purpose and liberation. Orkhon felt invigorated, the shadows of heated council chamber debates flickering in his mind's eye. Just as those in authority contended with their tensions and insecurities, he and Altai now wielded the knowledge necessary to further agitate such divides. As morning broke, painting the sky in the soft gradient of a new day, they leaned back, momentarily succumbing to the quiet triumph of progress. Altai, ever the realist, offered a final caution amidst their shared victory. "We tread a fine line. Orkhon, Soval's gaze will grow more intense. We must remain vigilant." He took her hand, their fingers intertwining in silent vow. "Together, we will navigate whatever lies before us. Soval may have eyes everywhere, but we possess foresight he cannot anticipate." Through their combined resolve, they had crafted a paradigm shift. What had started as a fragmented account of hidden narratives had transformed into a document of potential, poised to rewrite the Empire's blood-bound stories one ruptured truth at a time. With each discovered relic, replete with insights, Orkhon knew that proposing this new vision would ripple through the stones of the Empire, prompting a resonance far greater than they'd wielded before. In every plan and private declaration they'd made, their future pulsed with an illuminated promise. Thus, as dawn's light bathed their world anew, Altai and Orkhon, grounded by conviction and love, stood ready to take on the growing shadow of the Eternal Khan, armed with the weapon of truth and a shared ambition to claim the narrative of freedom, intertwined by destiny beneath an empire poised for evolution. Thank you for listening to My Ghostwriter.